All right, can everyone hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Anyone in the live chat, anyone, if you guys can hear me, let me know. All right, Real Nate says, all right, well. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just having some audio issues here, issues with my mic. I don't know what the hell's going on, but great to be back. Wow, I mean, so I had to redo. Actually, had to redo this thumbnail and the show title like three different times. Logic and I were having a conversation earlier in the week. We thought it was really a slow news week, and it turned out to be a huge news week. I mean, just talk about a massive bombshell being dropped today. I mean, no one expected this. Now, look, I had heard that Phil was on his way out probably back in November, late November, early December, and that Phil would be leaving sometime in January, February timeframe, and that Sarah Bond would probably be on her way out as well. And I kept hearing this along with the kind of the back and forth about whether or not Xbox is going to release another console. I put out a tweet today that some of the Xbox fan base got upset about, and look, it's nothing to be upset. I mean, some of this is some speculation based on things that I keep hearing from individuals who speak to people over at Xbox. And yeah, the booty remains. That's the other thing that was kind of shocking to me. That Matt Booty somehow managed to actually uh, got a promotion. Go figure. And then obviously earlier in the week we had Bluepoint, Sony shutting down Bluepoint Studios, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. I think Logic will be joining us. I don't know where he is. Logic, if you, I think I saw you in the chat. Um, you know what? That goes. I didn't invite him. All right, let me get Logic in here. I am failing today. All right, Logic, I know you're listening, but I did actually just send you just sent you a tweet. All right, so we'll get Logic in here in a little bit, but yeah, just a big news week. I mean, again, I'd heard that he was leaving, so I can't say I was totally shocked, but a lot of reactions on social media about Phil Spencer leaving, which we'll talk about here in just a bit, but yeah, Jess Corded saying I'm told there's currently no changes planned to the current Xbox next gen strategy. In parentheses for now. See, that's the thing. There's always that for now. And again, I've heard that it's still being debated. Kotaku um, had an article. Pull that article up here just a bit. Saying the Xbox is dead. Wolf Swim says, I just want RE9. Yeah, so do I. Requiem comes out next week. I'm excited for that. The Booty's Mighty. Oh, wow. Xbox, for me, Xbox is just, I don't know, a shell of its former self. I've, been in the Xbox ecosystem for 25 years, was an Xbox Live beta tester. I helped build Xbox Live. And actually, I want to introduce, we actually have the new head of Xbox Gaming. I should say EVP and CEO of Microsoft Gaming. Interesting, it's Microsoft Gaming. Asha Sharma. Let me introduce Asha here. So we have Asha Sharma just joined us. Asha, thank you for joining us tonight on BRAP.
Thanks, man. We just over here partying. I got the champagne rolling out. I invited some of my homies over. It's a big celebration day over here at the crib.
I bet.
So.
At the crib, I bet. Now, is Phil Spencer there?
Oh no, he wasn't feeling too well. I don't know. I'll let him speak on it. I'm not going to speak for him.
Okay. What about Matt Booty? Is Matt Booty there? Is he popping bottles?
Yeah, Matt's been over here for a while. He came over here to help set up. Brought some Crown Royal, some Cristal.
Some Cristal? So you guys are popping bottles like you just won a championship.
some Cuervo.
Some Cuervo. Okay. It sounds like it's gonna be a fun-filled night tonight.
Yeah, it should be a good time. I think there's some. I don't want to say. I think it'd be interesting to kind of compare notes and set the story straight from everything we've learned and how we understand it. I think there's some perspectives out there that don't line up with all the seeds that have been laid. So be interesting to get into it. And if in the chat, if my mic is too soft or too loud, feel free to let me know.
Yeah, I was actually having mic issues at the start of the show. I had to go back and reset everything. It's kind of sucked. That's why I forgot to send you the link to the show. Sorry about that. But interesting, I just probably just getting to the whole Xbox thing right now, I guess. I don't know. Do you want to talk about Xbox now? Or do you want to wait? You want to talk about Bluepoint?
It's up to you. I mean, I think my comments on Bluepoint will be very short because it's not news. It is a leak. It is a supposition posted by Bloomberg and by Jason Schreier. And while I applauded Jason Schreier for breaking the 30% profit margin thing in last fall, which has proven this winter to be correct and to have been corroborated by the head of Obsidian, he has written one thing that I've agreed with and that I have personally thought to be based on reliable sources. So, and he is, Bloomberg has gotten things wrong, and they've been called out 3 times directly by these CEOs, not PR, not other executives, but directly by these CEOs in press releases of Dell, Apple, and Nintendo for things that they have gotten wrong, and that have skewed perspectives of investors and shareholders. So I don't give Schreier or Bloomberg a pass for getting everything right. So at this moment in time, I don't constitute their post about Bluepoint as news until it's corroborated.
All right, fair enough. Well, why don't we get to the Bluepoint story? Give me a sec here. All right, so there is obviously Bloomberg reported that I can't even talk. Bloomberg reported that Bluepoint Games will close their doors. I think it's next month, if I'm not mistaken. The studio was acquired. For those who remember, the studio was acquired in 2021, and this is after the launch of Demon Souls. So if you were a day one PlayStation 5 owner like myself, you probably, if you're a Souls fan like I am, you probably picked up Demon Souls. And Demon Souls was a great game. I mean, it was one of the best remakes that I've played of a game. I mean, it literally, like they did with Shadow of the Colossus. You ever played Shadow of the Colossus, like the original version on the PlayStation 2? I mean, like you could tell, like the developer, at least for Shadow Colossus, had this this idea to bring this game with these, big characters, big kind of semi-open world, and then, obviously face some limitations with the PlayStation 2 hardware. And then that vision was realized in the remaster on PlayStation 4 with Shadow of the Colossus by Bluepoint. And then same thing, if you played the original Demon Souls, it was, I mean, it ran like shit. That's being nice. And then the modern adaptation of Demon Souls by Bluepoint was I mean, just again, it helped realize, I think, the true vision that From had of Demon Souls that they couldn't probably realize with the hardware limitations of the PlayStation 3. So yeah, so it was an awesome game. Kudos to Bluepoint. I was a fan of the studio because of some of the work they've done, especially with the remakes or remasters or remakes, I should say, of Shadow of the Colossus and of Demon Souls. But I also understand that this is a business, and I'm able to, at least for me, I saw a lot of fan reaction, and I get it. Like, people are upset. Bluepoint Studios are closing. PlayStation just picked them up in 2021. It does sound like some of these folks at Bluepoint are going to be absorbed into other studios. Um, but I again, I mean, I think this is part of. We know Bluepoint is working on a live service game that got canceled. There was another game that got greenlit. It sounds like that game probably didn't really meet internal expectations over at PlayStation. And so now you're looking at what, like 6 years since their last release? And I just look at this as kind of a, and with, I said this to, I don't know who I said this to earlier about, I was having a conversation with someone earlier today about this PlayStation generation. I think the one big whiff, where PlayStation's really missed is the live service and live service games. I mean, they've closed a few of the live service studios. That's kind of been, I think, the black eye for them this generation. Um, and I think that, unfortunately, Bluepoint is kind of a casualty of that shift now, where it looks like Sony's not as ambitious, and undertaking and developing live service games. I mean, they're still working on some. There's, I think, I forget the one that Jade Redmond, her studio's working on. I forget the name of that. Obviously,
Well, it's
the open beta. Yeah, go ahead.
it's Fair Games, and it's not her studio anymore.
Oh, it's not her studio anymore. It's right. Yeah, she's not part of Fair Games. Fair Games is working on one. We know that, there's another live service game that's being developed, but there's also, we know, Marathon's coming out. That's coming out. The open beta is next week and releases in March of next month, actually. Um, so, but I think Logic. I mean, just my quick 2 cents. I just think this was more or less of a, hey, it's been 6 years, no live service. Um, we're gonna close the studio, kind of a consolidation of a studio talent to move those resources that were propping that. I think that, I say resource, I mean like money, to prop up that studio, move it to other studios that are really cranking out content for PlayStation and making them money. So that's just my 2 cents. So what are your thoughts here, Logic? I know you're not giving too much. You kind of question whether or not this is, I don't want to say true, but I know you mentioned kind of the speculation, or not the speculation, but the uncertainty with the reporting, uh, coming from Bloomberg, which is fair because, to your point, they have been called out in the past for, not necessarily reporting things accurately.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 51. I'm 5149. Right. There's probably some truth to it. What I'm holding back from is that but there's lots of missing pieces of information. Number one, and number two, it's like I'm just not going to pour a lot of energy into something that's not confirmed. and speculate, spend a ton of time speculating about it and looking a bunch of things up. I think for me, the causality behind this is more, if this is true, is more so that is less about, hey, we're not doing live service, so we don't need Bluepoint anymore, because that was a Bluepoint's bread and butter. I think what it says is that in the roadmap going forward, in the restructured plan, now that we are coming off of live service, we don't see a need for deep back catalog remakes, right? If we're going to let you get back to your thing, if we were going to let you get back to your bread and butter. So that's number one. And then number two, what you and I talked about today is look, a lot of times when development teams get restructured, when production pipelines get restructured, when entertainment projects get restructured, sometimes the people who are nipped are simply the people who are at the back of the line, the people who have made the least amount of progress. And that's because that is the place where you've put the least amount of money and where there's the least amount of impact from having to continue pursuing, right, cutting costs. And so if PlayStation, which should be at double-digit profits at the end of the fiscal year, but will be down 10% on revenue, if they're still following Totoki's plan of we need to get costs down, we need to become more profitable, it may simply be a matter of we don't see a need for us to have that one additional project in the portfolio sucking up capital expense. But we do see you guys as highly talented, so we're going to distribute you to these other teams. So the one thing that should be understood,
resource reallocation. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes. So the one thing that should be understood of, I think, people who want to hang PlayStation by their toes over the closure of Bluepoint is, and again, this is why I find it difficult to comment on it. If it is true that they are taking 90% of the team and retaining them, they're not cutting any overhead costs in salary, right? Because those 70 developers are still going to be getting paid from PlayStation. So PlayStation's not doing anything to benefit itself from the expenditure of salary. What PlayStation might be doing is that they might be preventing future outlay of costs to fund an additional project. And that's a thing where you have to understand how accounting is done, where the cost for capital expense for a large scale company like this is going to be it's typically going to be on the R&D line. It may be broken out as capital expense. It's not reflected as employee salaries, right? Employee salaries are tracked differently, and so they're not on the same accounting line. So, but when all of that rolls up, and when you talk about profitability, right? Because what comes out of the capital expense is the labor hours that the employees are expending minus overhead and fringe, and so they're tracked differently from an accounting perspective. So I don't, like I said, if those employees are being retained, the way I look at this is a nothing burger. What we did was we just killed a project, our future projects.
Yeah.
And we consolidated, and we're still going to buff out the portfolio. And so if you're hurt because you're not getting a deep catalog remaster, I mean, certainly everybody's right to feel that way. I don't personally feel that way. I'm not personally impacted. You and I have talked about backwards compatibility.
Speak for yourself, sir. I told you how I felt about Bluepoint. But again, I could, like I said earlier, I could put aside the emotion, and I can understand from a business perspective that if you have a studio that's not putting out content, that's probably not going to drive any additional revenue for you, that there's a decision to be made. And I think you bring up a great point there about resource reallocation, kind of that portfolio reshuffling. And really deploying those resources into, I would imagine, probably to other studios, right? Where there's probably more value in having them there and actually working on projects that Sony deems as being potentially profitable for them. But real quick, Logic, want to introduce B. B, what's going on, man?
Yo, what's up, fellas?
B, what a day, man, right? What a day.
It's been a pretty good day, man.
Yeah, this is a lot of news. A lot of news today. I was said to Logic earlier in the week. I was like, this is kind of a slow news week. I was going to talk about a lot of the hype around Xbox Magnus, and then that change with the news about Bluepoint, and now we hear about Phil Spencer, which we'll get to later. So, but I'm sorry, Logic, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just wanted to introduce B real quick, and then we'll get to B. Get your thoughts B on Bluepoint. But go ahead, Logic.
No, I think that was pretty much it. Josh asked a good question in the chat, and he says, does Bluepoint have an office? So Bluepoint, right, and what he's angling at is, sometimes these things will happen because part of the cost you're trying to cut is real estate. Like if somebody has some ridiculously expensive commercial real estate that you're paying a lease on, and if you understand commercial real estate, that is a almost constantly escalating cost, right? You get it for a period of time, and every single time you re-up that lease, it's going to go up. And sometimes it's going to go up significantly based on what else is going on in the economy, because it's one of the things that gets very largely impacted by inflation in the housing market, et cetera. So as far as I understand, I think they're out of Austin, Texas. But the thing is if they are being retained, I don't necessarily know that office goes away unless they send them all remote. So, because I mean, I don't know what other PlayStation studios are located in Texas, so I don't know that they would necessarily be going like to another office, or if they would just house them all there and their remote employees like working on different projects. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about backwards compatibility, and I've said, and first of all, I mean, part of that conversation was, is backwards compatibility really the big deal that people make it out to be? And I contend that it's not, and it never has been. But I do agree that it will increase as people's libraries become, 100% wholesale digital. There'll be a higher expectation for backwards compatibility. But for me, the main point of that conversation as it relates to this is, for me, I've said I'm not super wrapped around the axle about getting back to like PS1, PS2 era titles, or Xbox, or OG Xbox, or even Xbox 360 titles, right? I mean, my concern about backwards compatibility is just earlier in this generation, and maybe a few handpicked titles from the last generation. So I mean, I'm not personally, as somebody who plays on the PlayStation platform, I'm not personally like hugely impacted by the notion that I'm not going to get some title that Bluepoint would do out of PS1, PS2 generation. But when you take a schwack at other studios, those things do impact me, right, as a fan. But just the type of stuff Bluepoint was working on, wasn't that for me. So I don't know that it would be that for lots of other fans. I don't know.
Hey, Logic, somebody asked you about the 90%, where you got the 90% retention.
Oh, the same place that you guys are getting it from. Yeah, when the rumors going around that the vast majority of those employees are trying to be relocated, I just pulled 90% out of.
Okay.
I mean, Bluepoint is somewhere between 75 and 100 employees, and the rumor that's floating around is that most of the development staff they're trying to relocate, and that it may be like admin staff and paper pushers and stuff like that are declared redundant and don't get retained. So you might have like 10 people out of the studio who actually get laid off, right? But the people who are actually hands on keyboard and actually do actual development, maybe there's a lifeboat for them. But yeah, 90% was just a hand wavy term.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I did read on Reddit. Sony said that where possible, we'll work to find opportunities for some impacted employees with our global network studios. I think potential landing spot, assuming that some of the developers are retained. I would actually, I would guess that Sony Santa Monica studio would probably be a likely destination spot, given that Bluepoint had worked directly with Sony Santa Monica on God of War Ragnarok. But B, what are your thoughts on the Bluepoint news?
I mean, I think it's kind of disappointing. Just anytime a studio is closed, I think it's disappointing to the consumer, and to gamers and things like that. But Bluepoint wasn't like a studio that I thought was doing the right thing. They came in, once they were purchased, doing the Demon Souls remake, and then they put out this thing on their website about how they wanted to go and make their own IP, and I always thought that was just a really dumb idea. I think when you're really known for something, you should stick to that. And if you wanted to, create your own IP, maybe you splinter off a small team, maybe 10, 15 developers, and you guys try to drum up something on the side. But their main focus should have been to continue remaking games, from the PlayStation portfolio. So, if I was running a studio, as we're getting sold or the potential purchases is on the horizon, the first thing that I'm going to say is that we're going to bring everything from the PS3 generation. You guys can't figure out how to get backwards compatibility with these games. We're going to ensure that the legacy from that generation is brought forward. And I thought that's kind of what they were doing when they brought Demon Souls, and I thought they would kind of continue that going forward. But once they decided that they wanted to work on their own IP, it was just, you could kind of tell that it wasn't going to work out for them. So the news, like I said, is disappointing, but it's not really a big deal to me, to be totally honest, because I mean, all they really make was remakes, and they weren't continuing to do that. So, I really wasn't looking forward to whatever they were working on. And then once it came out that they were doing a live service game, it's like, we don't need a live service God of War game. Like, if you're going to make a live service game, go make a live service with your own IP. So it's, it is what it is. Like you guys were saying, I think most of the talent is going to be kind of moved around to other PlayStation studios. So, I mean, they'll retain the talent. But them just kind of being off doing their own thing, I never thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, I was actually, I think I was actually initially surprised when I had heard that they were doing their own thing. As talented as they were as a studio in terms of some of the remakes that they made, I was actually surprised too. And then I was surprised to learn that they were working on a live service game as well. But the other thing, there is some precedent here with Sony closing down a studio and then taking some of the developers, some of the talent, and then moving them elsewhere. Japan Studio was another studio closure that, as a fan, I was like, this fucking sucks. But a lot of the team at Japan Studio were moved to Team Asobi. So there is some precedent here. It does sound like that some of the folks at Bluepoint will be moving to other other studios. I guess the big thing I disagree with Logic and B and some of the narratives that I saw running wild, like Hulkamania brother on Twitter. Some of that had to do with, this is, Xbox isn't the only one that's experiencing issues. Their industry headwinds, that are affecting everyone. And, and I'm like, okay, let's not compare. Somebody compared Bluepoint studio closure to that of Tango Gameworks. I'm like, guys, let's not do this. This is completely different. The reasonings behind those closures are different. The challenges these organizations face are different. And despite the headwinds in the industry that we see today, that we read about, and I said this earlier, Logic, to you. We were talking about this earlier, and I was like, the thing that really that I find a little frustrating is that, like, of course there are industry headwinds. There's industry headwinds in every industry, and I don't know if people are just starting to realize that the gaming industry isn't any different than other industries. But yes, like the gaming industry could be impacted by things like pandemics. The industry could be impacted by things like high labor market, high labor wages. We're actually seeing that as an impact to game development. It can be impacted by a shortage of talent. It can be impacted by macroeconomics. It can be impacted by inflation. So it isn't immune. It isn't different in that regard from other industries. And I don't see us pulling out the jump to conclusions, Matt, and screaming at the top of the hill saying that, well, I don't know, guys, fast food's down 10%, so McDonald's is cooked. I don't see us doing that. And so I saw a lot of that from the news of Bluepoint. And yes, is the industry facing headwinds? Of course. The industry is always facing headwinds, so this isn't new. I mean, I can't tell you in the 40 years that I've been gaming where I've seen I mean, how many consoles have we seen come and go, guys? Like a lot, right? I mean, how many studio closures have we seen in the past? A lot. Some of these things aren't necessarily new. And the gaming industry is in constant evolution, and it evolves. And so I think some of the reactions, some of the things that people are pointing to in terms of headwinds are a bit overblown in terms of their, I think, impact in this case to Sony. But that being said, I'll say this one thing. Because I had some folks on social media say, well, Brap, you don't say this about Xbox. It's like, well, look, Xbox is often viewed through a different lens because despite some of the industry headwinds that the big three are facing, two of the big three, their console businesses are very healthy right now. And we know that because we've seen the financials. We know that because we see the demand in their hardware and their software. So, yeah, I just think sometimes these things are a bit, these comparisons, I think, are a bit of a false equivalency to what's really happening under the hood. So, let me grab the super chat here. Street Shadow with the $5 super chat says, so just a point of clarity, SIE doesn't force studios to make a game of any type. They greenlight games, but studios come up with the ideas. I'm actually not sure. B, any insight there, B?
Yeah, I mean, they don't put like a mandate on the studio to make a particular game. The devs go, to the board and they pitch their game, and if it's something that they're interested in, then they greenlight it. But they are not they're not dictated to make any particular game.
So I want to talk about this a little bit, and I'm going to try and get through this without getting spun up. Because this is the thing that I have lots of things very, very deep in my background that when I hear this causes me to get a little angry. So first of all, I would say from a gaming perspective, I would caution PlayStation fans to not start treading in the direction of sounding like Xbox fans, because statements like that sound very much like Xbox fans who tried to absolve Xbox of its accountability for Redfall and say, well, that was a Bethesda problem or that's an Activision problem. So let me talk about some basic tenets of leadership and management. Responsibility can be delegated. Accountability can never be delegated. Accountability is the thing that you carry with you when you are appointed to a leadership position. And when you are at the head of a business division, a business unit, you don't get to delegate accountability. So it doesn't matter whether or not you told somebody to do something or whether or not you approved somebody to do something. There is command by negation, which means somebody has the freedom and the latitude at a lower level of management to declare to you what their intentions are. And then by virtue of you, this is doctrine, right? And then by you not saying no, you have given tacit approval for that person to go do that. You are still a P&L leader. And so you are still accountable for the revenue and the profit of that business unit. You don't absolve yourself of the accountability because you didn't tell them to make a game. What you did do is you greenlit and you approved their game. There is a governance board. There is a structure and a framework for people to bring their ideas and pitch them. Those leaders are in senior executive positions, ostensibly, theoretically, because they know more or more experienced or more seasoned than the management levels beneath them. And they are there in those seats to provide that leadership and that oversight. And so if you see something going wrong, or you see that something is not the thing that it should be and is not in alignment with your strategy, your responsibility and your duty and your accountability in that seat is to disprove it, or to course correct it, or to coach, or to mentor, or to correct it, or do whatever it is that you need to do so that the performance of your business unit maintains the operational excellence that Totoki expects you to maintain. And so PlayStation senior leadership is not alleviated of the accountability. PlayStation senior leadership was the ones who made the decision to go pursue in the direction of a heavy live service strategy. And so, as somebody has said in the chat, it should not be a surprise that a bunch of studios came to you and pitched an idea to do live service games, because usually when your boss says this is the strategy and this is the guidance and this is where we're going, typically as a lower level manager, you don't bring your boss a plan that doesn't align to that.
Exactly.
Because why? Because you eventually want to be promoted. You eventually want to be sitting in the seat where your boss is. Unless you come with a very damn good reason and justification and rationale supported by evidence that there's a reason why you shouldn't do what they ask you to do. So, so that's all I'm saying. There's somebody, and I'm not saying that's what you did, Street Shadow. I'm saying there are some people who throw that out as a way to, like I said, do what the Xbox guys did and said it's PlayStation's fault. It is absolutely PlayStation leadership's fault. Right? The gas, let's be very clear. The gas strategy failed.
It hasn't worked.
Yeah, and I agree with the strategy, the gas strategy. I completely agree with Colin Moriarty's assessment that, look, a lot of the money, most of the money that's coming into PlayStation comes from games that they don't own, and so it puts them at risk because they don't control what those live service creators do. Those live service creators can decide to do something that could impact the PlayStation business. And so just like Xbox went out and bought Activision, it's important that you be able to have control of your own fate, particularly in a declining fiscal environment, right? So it made sense to kind of go after that. But the fact that it has not been executed on and that it hasn't brought any fruit, that's a thing that's PlayStation is accountable for.
Yeah,
even if it's
falls on leadership. Yeah,
even if it's bad luck or bad luck of the draw, who cares? It's their bag.
Yeah, no, I agree, Lodge. That's a great point to bring up too. I don't know if I've seen that conversation. Oh, actually, I've seen some people call for the firing of Herman Hulst, but no, a lot of this. I mean, and I said this earlier in the show. This has been the big miss, the big whiff for PlayStation this generation. Live service. I mean, you look at the studios that they've acquired for live service. I think maybe half of them have closed now. They've closed half. They started off with 12 games. Concord came out, flopped, terrible game. They shut that down. I mean, they had a lightning in the bottle moment with Helldivers too. And we'll see how Marathon works out. And then I forget the we just talked about it. What's the game that Jade Raymond's former studio is working on?
Fair Games.
Fair Games, yeah. I mean, we'll see how that plans out, but yeah, no, I mean that's actually a great point, Logic, that it does fall on leadership because they're the ones that said, look, this is the new strategy moving forward. And now you see leadership's actually saying, okay, this isn't working out and we need to pivot here a bit.
Yeah, look, I mean, depending on how Fair Games comes out, look, I hold PlayStation accountable for that too, because as I said, when they acquired that studio, I was like, okay, Jade Raymond hasn't shipped a thing since Assassin's Creed, 3? Before she left.
Yeah,
I think that's why they got her out of there.
She's like Matt Booty.
Yeah, she didn't produce anything at EA Motive. She didn't produce anything at Google Stadia. And then she pulls together the studio to pull off a live service game, which she has never done before. And PlayStation's decision is that great. That sounds like a studio we want to acquire.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely did it in a rapid pace, but like I tell everybody, it's something that they needed to do. As much as people try to downplay, what Xbox has done, just about every one of their studios have some sort of live service game, and they generate revenue. It's why they can keep things afloat over there. With the hardware decline that's been going on for 2+ years, nobody's buying games over there, but the people who are there, they are spending money. They keep the doors and the lights open. And PlayStation just doesn't have that. Even when you look at every one of their studios, they may have a game that has some sort of light multiplayer game mode, i.e. Ghost of Tsushima. But beyond that, they didn't have those offerings. And MLB The Show is the only thing that they really have that brings in a ton of revenue on a yearly basis. Gran Turismo 7 is probably the longest lasting Gran Turismo that they've had. Because that's basically been here since the beginning of the generation.
Still not on PC.
I mean, I don't think they're going to put it on PC now, but you know that game continues to generate revenue. But beyond that, I mean, most of their games are, you know, the one and dones. You know, they come out, they have high sales numbers in the first few weeks, they taper off really bad, and now you got to try to spin up the next $300 million project and hope that you know can get some profit back off of that. So it's something that they definitely need to do, something that they still need to do, in my opinion. Hopefully Marathon is something that, you know, can keep a consistent player base. Hopefully, you know, once the Horizon game comes out, that finds an audience.
Oh my gosh, I'm not even that I gotta be honest with you, that is, I don't know that's it.
I think that game looks pretty fun, and
I mean,
it's more in line with what Monster Hunter offers, and it's got its own spin on it with the.
But it looks like Fortnite. That's the part that I can't get over. It looks like a Fortnite clone.
No, it doesn't.
You don't think so? I think the visual
doesn't look like
looks
Fortnite.
like Fortnite.
It looks like, I mean, it looks cartoony, but if you want to classify that as, no, I mean, that doesn't look like Fortnite though. If we're gonna call everything that looks cartoony Fortnite, then I mean that's most of the games in the industry.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It just, I don't know. I hope it does well. It's just not. It's not for me.
Yeah. I mean, I can get that.
Yeah.
But I think that game can find that audience and
is it coming to PCB? Well.
Yeah, that's coming to PC.
So PC, PlayStation. How about Nintendo Switch?
I don't believe so.
I mean, it's got the. I mean, I don't know. It's got the Horizon name. Who knows? I just, you know, I just look at their, you know, I got to go back and look at their. This has been like, for me, like looking at PlayStation this generation, this has been the one sore spot, the one thing that they haven't done well. And, you know, and then there's been trouble with Bungie, Marathon. I don't know. Although some of the feedback, some of the chatter I've seen online more recently on social media has been actually pretty positive about Marathon. So maybe there's something there. I don't know. We'll see. I think the open beta, see how that plays out. I'm going to give the open beta a shot. But you're right, B. Like, I think the one thing that Xbox has done well is that they've taken these live service games and been able to curate these smaller communities that have supported these games. I mean, you look at Obsidian's what's the Honey Shrunk the Kids game? Grounded. And even like Sea of Thieves, like shipped really rough. Yeah, Sea of Thieves has a pretty good like player base, so like committed like a solid community around it, and it launched pretty bad.
I mean, you have Elder Scrolls Online. People are still paying $15 a month to access that.
ESO, yeah, absolutely, ESO, yeah.
So I mean, they have these titles that, I mean, they are constantly generating money. So it's like they have found that balance, and most people don't consider that, but I mean those are the facts.
Yeah, B, do you think they're still going to try, even with some of the studio closures? I got to go back and pull a number because I think there've been like
4. There's only been 4 studio closures for PlayStation.
4 live service games.
I
think it's been more than.
Yeah, they've probably canceled more live service games, but they've only closed 4 studios, and really 3 because they repurposed one of them.
Okay, I thought they've closed more since 2019. I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, I mean, do you think then, B, that they're going to continue? Because I always feel like just listening to them in their last, I guess, investor talk, where they had, you know, they talk about like, you know, the strategies for, you know, the different business units. They talked about PlayStation. It almost seemed like kind of a refocus of let's get back to the basics, right? Let's focus on the hardware, making great single player games, you know, being strategic about where we leverage franchises, like like a Lego Horizon or this new Horizon game, or how we leverage IP via transmedia and TV shows, movies. Because one of the things that wasn't listed here on their as a growth pillar for them was PC anymore. I don't think they're going to get away from PC ports, but do you think like even with some of the failures they've had, because they've had failures, right? Do you think they're still going to continue this push for live service? Maybe
Absolutely. Dark Outlaw is making a live service game. They haven't canceled Fair Games. They got rid of Jay Raymond beginning of last year. They haven't canceled Fair Games. So whatever producer they're putting on it now, that game is going to come out. The game that they took from Bungie, that Gummy Bears game, they're still working on that. They're
working on that Gummy Bears game?
Well, I mean, it's called Project Gummy Bear.
Project Gummy Bear, yeah, Gummy Bear. Yeah, it's not a gummy. Let's make that clear. It's not a Gummy Bear game. It is Project Gummy Bear. Yeah, Bubs, go ahead, B.
Yeah, so I mean, the live service push is gonna still continue. So if people are, getting excited because they think that's over, you're sadly mistaken.
Interesting. Now, B, why have you on the show? I saw some tweets from you. It led me to believe that you may know some things. So I got to ask you, is PlayStation cooking again? Or is there some exciting things we're not aware about? Because I don't know, maybe I read too much into your post, but I was like, like it sounds like maybe you were responding to someone who felt like maybe the state of play wasn't as good as it could have been. And you're like, hey, they can't really show you everything. There's more stuff coming.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely more announcements that they'll have this year. Some stuff people have been waiting for, and some stuff maybe people won't be as happy about. The people who are, only expecting single player games going forward, you won't be happy with some of the announcements. I mean, that's just the facts. But I'm excited about it. You know what I mean? Like I said, I think this is the direction that they need to take. Multiplayer is something that they've continued to lack since the PS3 era.
SOCOM.
So I mean, I think that
why not bring SOCOM back, B? I mean, like I thought SOCOM was a good game. I thought it was pretty popular.
Yeah, but I mean, when you have a military-based game that's been dominant for 15-20 years, like
COD.
Yeah, why are you even going to step in that space?
Yeah,
I mean, it's the reason why all of their live service games are, just these random, type of shooters. It's not like trying to go for that audience, because they already have that audience on PlayStation. You know what I mean? When it comes to console sales, everybody plays Call of Duty on PlayStation. You know what I mean? So, why even try to breach that market and go ahead and cannibalize your own game when most people are going to just buy Call of Duty anyway.
All right, let me grab this super chat. Street Shadow 20 with another $5 super chat. Thank you for that super chat. It says, sorry, Logic. I agree, Logic. At the end of the day, the responsibility is also on SIE to approve good ideas. I did that as a reply to my first super. Thank you for that super chat, Street Shadow. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I told him in the chat I understood. I do want to make it more explicit here. My apologies too. I want to make it clear I was not like attacking you or coming at you. It was more, and it was not because you said a thing one time. It was because I've seen this come up multiple times, and 50% of the time I see it coming up, it's because somebody's trying to absolve PlayStation of the strategy and the accountability. And I just, like I said, the things that I said tonight, I want to make it clear, like, there is equivalence, right, in some of the criticisms between Xbox and PlayStation, in that PlayStation has embarked on a strategy, and I absolutely agree with you, B, much in the same way that I say about Xbox. I've said 90% of the time, for the knucklehead who was in chat saying that we never can say anything bad about PlayStation. I've said multiple times, I don't. There's never been an Xbox strategy. Program execution strategy that I've ever had a problem with. I think some of their marketing has been boneheaded. it's like everything is an Xbox, I think was a stupid marketing strategy. But that's not program execution, that's marketing. But PlayStation embarked on this strategy to go hoggish on live service at scale, and they haven't executed, like, whether or not they've executed, like, in terms of like maintaining schedule, whatever. The point is that what they did hasn't borne fruit, and some of that's explainable and understandable. Like, it's not their expertise. They're learning. I agree with you, B. I mean, B, you obviously know more than I do, but just from an outsider looking in, I think they're going to continue doing live service games. I don't think they're going to do them at scale, like the multi-billion-dollar, investment and a bunch of tons of studios. But I think they're gonna
the Concord thing will not happen again. Where they're dumping $300, $400, $500 million into this thing where they think it's going to be the next big thing. That will not happen again.
Yeah, and I think, and they've said they've learned, right, that basically what it sounded to me like is that every single one of these things they do, they need to do some type of early access. They need to do something where they put the thing in the hands of players early and get feedback. And it sounds that's going to become more programmatic, right? Like something that they do every single time. So,
yes.
So a question I did have on Xbox though, because I've been trying to pull this together. Yes, Xbox stands up live service games. And again, this is because of the comment you made. It was something I was thinking about before the show. Xbox stands up live service games, and I've given Xbox credit for doing that. But then I thought about it today, and I was like, hold on a second. Besides Sea of Thieves, Grounded, and I don't count Halo Infinite because they basically said they've wrapped up Halo Infinite, right? So besides Sea of Thieves and Grounded, what do they have that has come from an Xbox studio, from an internal Xbox studio, that is a live service thing that's keeping them going, that is not something that they've acquired? Because all the live service stuff on Activision Blizzard and all the live service stuff, ESO, from Bethesda, are all things that they bought. Which, quite frankly, I don't think is a horrible strategy. Quite frankly, I think maybe that's what I would do. That's why I don't hold a lot of grudge against PlayStation for going to getting Bungie. Because if you don't know how to build a thing, it absolutely makes more sense to go buy a thing that's already successful, rather than try and build it from the ground up yourself when you don't have that domain expertise. But from an Xbox perspective, I was thinking about it today, and I'm realizing I don't think they've actually built a lot of from the ground up inside their own house. Well, I guess I have to give them credit for Grounded because Grounded was made after they acquired Obsidian.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you would consider Forza Horizon, the same type of thing. Just simply because they didn't actually own the studio, and it was something that came kind of later on after Forza Motorsport was kind of on its way out. But I would say Forza Horizon would probably be like the only one that you could really consider. I mean, they bought Minecraft, they bought Fallout 76 came on after with the Bethesda purchase. I'm trying to think. I mean, Halo Infinite was supposed to be one that just didn't pan out like they wanted it to. I don't know. I have to look at their catalog. I'm just trying to think off the top of the head, but yeah, I mean, maybe you're right. Everything that they kind of have is something that they purchased and wasn't really built from the ground up. Yeah, I mean, Sea of Thieves will be one, I guess. Just because they had that studio in the house way before Sea of Thieves even came along.
Right.
All right, let me grab this super chat here. Sorry about that, guys. I was sneezing. Bo Jackson, the $5 super chat says, how do you feel about Major Nelson's advice to Asha Sharma to partner with the community? We'll get into that here in just a second. He's got a follow-up super chat, $2 super chat with specifically, is it too late? It's a great question. We'll get into that here in just a second. Do want to read the article from IGN. I think IGN, if I'm not mistaken, was the first to break this. At least they're the first. Well, actually, maybe they were the first media site to. Yeah,
McCaffrey said he actually got it from an informant. It wasn't like it wasn't like Microsoft sent him a press release. It was like somebody one of his contacts. Yeah, gave him the rundown.
Yeah. All right. So Ryan McCaffrey, Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer has been at Microsoft since he joined as an intern in 1980. But he's been there 38 years, and with Xbox since the software giant launched its first console in 2001, is retiring. Sources familiar with the matter who are not authorized to speak publicly confirmed to IGN. Spencer's retirement is effective on Monday, February the 23rd. I wonder if they were going to even announce this. Like if they definitely were. Yeah, and I'll go through that a little bit once you. Yeah, because I'm like, wait, if he got the heads up.
Thanks to Josh who pointed me at some information that made it clear that that this has been going on for a while.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Meanwhile, Xbox President Sarah Bond, long thought by many, both inside and outside of Microsoft, to be Spencer's heir apparent, has resigned. Yeah, I mean, I think we all. I mean, I thought that she was going to be his replacement. I had heard, and I said this earlier in the show. I heard back like November, early December, that Phil was stepping away, but I also heard that Sarah wasn't going to be back. But despite that, I mean. I thought just because of the amount of media she was getting, and that she was kind of out there stumping for Xbox. She was out there, did the whole interview, I think, with maybe, I don't know if it was Good Morning America, but with the release of the ROG Ally X, she was out there talking about it, saying everything's an Xbox and holding up the ROG Ally and talking about Microsoft's vision for its hardware in the future. So Sarah Bond is gone. And the new CEO of Microsoft Gaming will be Asha Sharma, currently the president of Microsoft's core AI product. Finally, Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty is being promoted Chief Content Officer. Wow, Matt Booty got a promotion, which I'm shocked. I want to thank Phil for his extraordinary leadership and partnership. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said in an email sent to Microsoft staff, over 38 years at Microsoft, including 12 years leading gaming. Phil helped transform what we do and how we do it. And Ryan's, if you want to look at the article, Ryan's post the emails below, but and I'll get to what the new head of Xbox, Microsoft Gaming, what Asha Sharma had to say on the Xbox, on the Microsoft blog about being named EVP and CEO of Microsoft Gaming. So, let me get to her message here. All right. So, dear team, today I begin my role as CEO at Microsoft Gaming. I feel two things at once: humility and urgency. Humility because this team has built something extraordinary over the decades. Urgency because gaming is in a period of rapid change, and we need to move with clarity and conviction. I'm stepping into work shaped by generations of artists, engineers, designers, writers, musicians, operators, and more, create worlds that have brought joy and deep personal meaning to hundreds of millions of players. The level of craft here is exceptional, and it is amplified by Xbox, which is founded the belief that the power of games connects people and pushes the industry forward. Thank you to Phil for his leadership and to every studio, platform, and operations team that built this foundation. We are stewards of some of the most loved stories and characters in entertainment, and bring players and creators together around the fun and community of gaming in entirely new ways. My first job is simple: understand what makes this work and protect it. That starts with 3 commitments. First, great games. Everything begins here. I don't disagree with her. I think that's been part of the issue in the past with Xbox. We must have great games beloved by players before we do anything. Unforgettable character stories that make us feel innovative gameplay and creative excellence. We empower our studios, invest in iconic franchises, and back bold new ideas. We will take risk. We will enter new categories and markets where we can add real value, grounded in what players care about most. I promoted Matt Booty. It's ironic that she's mentioning great games with Matt Booty being promoted. But she says, I promoted Matt Booty in honor of this commitment. He understands the craft and challenges of building great games. Has led teams that deliver award-winning work and has earned the trust of game developers across the industry. Second, the return of Xbox. And this is what I found interesting, by the way, the return of Xbox. I'm not so sure that I'm buying this. And in part that's because this goes back to a lot of the back and forth, Phil Spencer and the 4 games, and you know, we're going to learn from this, and just and the constant shift and pivots of strategy, and I don't believe I don't believe a lot of things that come out of Xbox because of the way they've communicated to consumers over the last couple of years. We will recommit to our core Xbox fans and players, those who have invested with us for the past 25 years, and to developers build the expansive universes and experiences that are embraced by players across the world. We will celebrate our roots with a renewed commitment to Xbox, starting with console, which I thought this is interesting with console, but I think this is about this console generation. But although, again, I don't know, I'll get back to that in a minute because I have some thoughts on that. But starting with console, which has shaped who we are, it connects us to the players and fans who invest in Xbox and to the developers who build ambitious experiences for it. Gaming now lives across devices, not within the limits of any single piece of hardware. As we expand across PC, mobile, and cloud, Xbox should feel seamless, instant, and worthy of the communities we serve. We will break down barriers so developers can build once and reach players everywhere without compromise. Third, future of play. We're witnessing the reinvention of play. To meet the moment, we invest in new business models and new ways to play by leaning into what we already have, iconic teams, characters, and worlds that people love. But we will not treat those worlds as static IP to milk and monetize. Kind of already doing that right now. We will build a shared platform and tools that empower developers and players to create and share their stories. As monetization AI evolve and influences future, we will not chase short-term efficiency or flood our ecosystem with soulless AI slop. Games are and always will be art, crafted by humans and created with the most innovative technology provided by us. Next 25 years belong to the teams who dare to build something surprising, something no one else is willing to try, and have the patience to see it through. You've done this before, and I'm here to help us do it again. I want to return to the renegade spirit that built Xbox in the first place. It will require us to relentlessly question everything, revisit process, protect what works, and be brave enough to change what does not. Thank you for welcoming me into this journey. Signed, Asha. So I know it was a lot. All right, B, what are your thoughts?
It's kind of weird because it's like you don't know whether to believe this or not, because for the past few years we all thought that what Xbox was doing was coming from the top, right? So we thinking, that Satya is rolling down all the stuff that Xbox is doing, and there was some fighting behind the scenes, and this really was the direction that Phil and Sarah want to take Xbox, but this is where Satya wanted to take Xbox. But all of a sudden, we bring this new CEO in, and we're going back to the way Xbox used to run. That doesn't make too much sense to me. So either, the board members and the stakeholders said, "Yo, figure this out, go back to what it was," because at least then, we had positive numbers coming in, or this Phil, they knocked on Phil's door and said, "Hey, time's up, buddy." And Sarah didn't agree what was going on, and she decided to leave because we have no correspondence from her, no email about her, nothing that's no glowing and great words to say about Sarah Bond. So that lets you know that something happened there that probably was unexpected, and now they're trying to change the direction of Xbox. So whatever she said in this long paragraph, this long essay, it all sounds great. We have to see if she actually has some push those, make those words be true. Only time will tell, but it was a shock to the system today for sure.
Yeah, and I want to add a couple things here, B. And it's funny you mentioned like this kind of doesn't make sense what she said, and then I'm looking at her background, right, her experience, and I'm thinking to myself, like, because I had some pushback. Like to me, I think this signals a bit of like they're going to get out of hardware, and people are like, "What are you talking about? They're going to get out of hardware, Brad? What are you talking about? Like she just said console in there. You didn't see where she said console." I'm like, okay, but if you look at her experience, she worked at Instacart, right, where she focused on scaling a digital marketplace. She worked at Meta, working on Horizon and the Metaverse platform, growing that platform. Microsoft, previously, she actually helped building emerging platforms like HoloLens, and now she's with AI, right? So those things don't scream, and she doesn't really have that traditional gaming background, right? Like Phil Spencer or like a Herman Hulst. So to me, that doesn't necessarily scream like, hey, like we're going to continue selling hardware at some point. Like to me, that speaks, hey, like we're looking to grow this platform, grow our ecosystem, grow our services, and not necessarily physical device sales. And she's got the background to do that because she's done that at these other places.
Yeah.
So that's why, and then again, like Microsoft, to your point, be like, I don't know if I believe a lot of what she said. I think kind of this nod to the core is more of like, hey, like maybe calming their maybe concerns that they might have with this role. Because look, Phil's been an integral part of the Xbox community. He has been, look, and I mean, B, you and I have been doing this for a long time, right?
Yeah.
You've been to the E3s, you met Phil, you've seen the community. You know how they've kind of treated him like I don't know, like
he's royalty for sure.
Yeah, like he's royalty. Yeah, like he's like they've always treated him like a god in a kind of weird way.
Yeah.
But that's no longer there anymore, right? That's gone. And I think part of that commentary there is kind of just maybe soothe some of the concerns that some of the core hardcore Xbox fans have, because again, I don't think that I'm not buying a lot of the stuff that she said here, only because of some of the things that Microsoft's already put in place. To your point, like we had this idea of Phil and Sarah wanting something, Satya wanting something else. It's kind of an internal struggle. Now we're hearing something else from her, but they've already told us. Sarah's already told us you don't need an Xbox. Everything's an Xbox.
Right.
Right. And so it, like Laura Fryer said in a video of hers, she used to, for those who don't know, she actually used to work at Xbox. She said, if everything's an Xbox and nothing's an Xbox, so I don't know how so you get back to, back to, we celebrate our roots and we now commitment to Xbox started with the console. Like, how do you get back to that?
Yeah, I mean, and it's almost like she's saying that everything that they're doing right now, we're not doing that going forward. We're going back to the way how console was structured before. It's almost like, we're going to have exclusive content. We're going back to, selling games. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like we're ripping all this down and we're going back to what you expected from us. Going into this generation, this is not what you should expect. You should expect, traditional console business. We're going to sell games. We're going to have exclusives. We're going back to the way it was, and that could be. It just doesn't make sense. Like you cannot turn around what you've done or try to undo what you've done and totally turn the business upside down and expect people to just accept that, because it's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't disagree. We
will recommit to Xbox players and fans.
Yeah, I mean, are you saying that you're not committed now?
Right.
Like what are you saying? Are you saying that you're just not committed? Like I don't. What does that mean? You're recommitted. So if you're recommitted, then are you saying that? Because for me, like as somebody who's been in the Xbox ecosystem, which she says 25 years, I'm raising my hand. I'm like, that's me.
Yeah.
I helped build Xbox Live. For those who don't know, I was an Xbox Live beta tester. I was there day one. You know, so to me, if you're saying that, like, hey, like you've invested 25 years, and we're going to recommit to our core. Well, you know what? As somebody who was a core Xbox fan for those years, I want powerful hardware and games that are specifically designed to take advantage of that hardware. And I'm not just talking about games. I'm talking about exclusives.
Right.
Gaming experiences that I can't get anywhere else. I go back to the original Xbox, Ninja Gaiden, Halo, Brute Force, which wasn't that great of a game, but looked great. Y'all remember that Brute Force trailer? You know, partnering with third-party developers to make exclusive content. The Elder Scrolls Morrowind, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Remember the Mass Effect series launched on the 360 as an exclusive. Josh Ayers, DOA 3, Fusion Frenzy. Like that's to me that is peak Xbox.
Right.
So I mean, I like is that what you're promising here? We will celebrate our roots with a renewed commitment to Xbox, starting with the console. So what does that mean? Like to your point, like does that mean they're scrapping everything and say, okay, we're going to pivot again? I don't know. All right, Logic. What are your thoughts on what she had to say here on the Microsoft blog?
Yeah, I mean I mean just a lot of kind of duplicitous statements that, like B said, just reveal a lot of, leave me very confused about what the real plan is or where things are going. The allusion to Xbox is back, combined with we're going to take risks and head in new directions. So I just don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you a question, Logic. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you said that like Xbox is back. So what does that mean to you? I'm just curious. I'm curious of what that means.
Yeah, I mean, normally it would mean what you guys talked about and what you and I have always said, right? Which it would mean, the only. This is going to be a little controversial, but I would contend, obviously peak Xbox was Xbox 360 generation. So if you're going to use the terms Xbox is back, that to me is what you're alluding to. But I don't believe that that's the intent. I mean, I'll give credit to Ryan McCaffrey, who I think is a horrible journalist, or maybe not even a journalist anymore. But but I'll give him credit. He said, expecting that they're going to put the genie back in the bottle, and tomorrow they're going to stop shipping games to PlayStation and start doing exclusives. That might be right. That might be an interpretation too far of what she said. So right now today, I don't know what Xbox is back means. The thing that I would put the biggest hope in is that, is that she's genuine when she says it's about great games first. Like that's what it has to be. And that to me is a bit of a reversal from Phil Spencer's, there is no world in which, Starfield is an 11 out of 10 game. And it doesn't matter how good we make it. So I don't know. So maybe the contradiction that we feel from like what she said and what Phil was. I mean, it could just be that Phil after Redfall, it was just, I don't want to say he was retired on duty, but that he was just exhausted and had kind of given up. And felt like, it felt like, my only job now is just to kind of, land the plane and land the plane that already has a broken wing. And it wasn't so much focused on actually, charting a new strategy, but it was just, running between the tackles that Amy Hood and Satya were setting up for him, and do the best that he could, until he could get out. Now the pushback I have is I think there's some notions out here that this happened suddenly, or that that they were fired. Look, I don't know. I won't be as bullish as asserting that nobody was asked to leave, but what I will say is I don't personally think this thing happened suddenly. Normally, if you're going to remove an executive on a very short wire like this, you are not going to necessarily bring in a wackadoodle move of replacing them with somebody who's just completely off kilter, outside the space, doesn't have any domain expertise, because that's not a short search. That's not a short decision you come to. That's not something as a CEO you go to bed overnight, right, and sleep on it and wake up and say, oh, I should promote that young kid from the AI department and have her head Xbox, right? That's normally not like a short distance math trip that you have to make. From the no, Josh, I'm not. Oh yeah, you said no. I pulled back from being fired. Yeah, I don't want you to think thinking that you said they were fired. The emails that they put out today, and again, emails can be crafted. Phil said he's been working with Sharma for a few months on the transition. I think Booty may have said the same thing. Sarah Bond's correspondent says that she's been working with Sharma for a few weeks, and that she's actually staying on as a special advisor. So she's not leaving Xbox right away. So I think this thing has been in the works for a while. There is a Variety interview up with Asha Sharma. So if you know how press works, I'm pretty sure they didn't call Jennifer Moss, last night at midnight and say, "Hey, can you interview?"
We got a scoop for you.
Yeah. Now I don't know that Moss physically went there. She's based out of New York, so I don't know that she flew out. But possibly. But at a minimum, right? It had to get on her schedule. They had to line it up. And if you listen to like Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, who have been deep covers of Xbox for like 20 plus years, and of course Mary Jo Foley doesn't do that anymore because she's actually an Xbox employee, Microsoft employee. Like these, like when they would get access, like these things don't happen quickly. Like they are set up, weeks in advance, and there's lots of careful orchestration and balleting with PR, right, to get everything set up, be in the right place at the right time, even if you're doing stuff remote. So I personally think this has been afoot for a while, and usually you don't do succession planning. Like that's just not the way you do succession planning. So now let me just go completely to speculation station. What I think, so I'm pretty sure Microsoft has a mentorship program like most big companies do. I have an inkling that maybe Sharma was a mentee or has been a mentee of Satya's. And so if you're not familiar with mentorship programs at big companies, typically what happens is they identify their high pots, right? Their high potential performers who are likely to be promoted to executive points of leadership. There's succession planning that typically stacks, 2 or 3 of them as potential eventual reliefs for people in different positions. They are typically groomed. They are given specific assignments to get them set up, to give them, right, to have them matriculate what I refer to as perception, image, and exposure, so that they get seen by people. People have a perception of them and know who they are, so that when they get to leadership, people aren't like, who the hell is this guy? And then with mentorship programs, you typically get assigned like each senior executive leaders down to managers get assigned people to mentor, so that, again, you can kind of groom the next generation of leadership. So I have a feeling that maybe she was a mentee of Satya's. At a minimum, she and Satya probably have crossed paths because she was working in AI, and now that's what Satya has been released to do. He's offloaded a lot of his CEO responsibilities. So I'm guessing and assuming that that's how they've crossed paths, and she got identified and handpicked. So I think this has been a while coming. What I can't tell, kind of like, again, like B said, like I can't tell if the things that she put in her announcement are the real, or if Satya handpicked one of his disciples to oversee the sunsetting of the Xbox brand. At a minimum, I think she's been brought in to oversee the entire transition out of hardware. Meaning, when I say meaning,
I was just about to ask you if this signals for the sunsetting of Xbox hardware, which I said earlier. People got upset and said, "Oh, well, she mentioned console in her her statement. But go ahead, Lodge. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and when I say out of hardware, what I mean is that they're going to do the next generation. They're going to do Magnus, and then after that, anything that is labeled as an Xbox will be something built by the laptop vendors, right? They're key hardware vendor partners. And so like the generation after that, like if you own an Xbox, it's going to be something built by Asus, Acer, Samsung, Dell, Alienware, Razer, maybe, or something. Lenovo definitely will unquestionably be a Lenovo. So I think that's where their hardware is going. Sarah's email, when you read it, it sounds to me like, and again, I'm not saying that, I think she was passed over, because I think she was being groomed as the heir apparent. I think she was so pissed.
Yeah,
I think she was pissed that she was passed over, as any executive would be if you were being groomed, right, to be the next. And I think between the time that she was told she was being passed over and today, I'm not positive, I think based on a line that I saw in her email, I think she has her next gig. And I think her next, and it's possible that, and it's also possible that she had already been poached, and that she was already leaving, and that that's the perfect storm, right? When those three ley lines converged, and they came up with this whole plan, like a three-way trade in the NBA. Yeah.
Hopefully Anthony Davis was involved in that three-way trade, and so we got stuck with him. I meant to ask you about that, B. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Logic.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I think people are saying this is jokes, but I just want to mention it because, like we say on the show, we want people to walk away with the right understanding. Like some people have made these allusions to these board positions that Sharma has and Sarah Bond has, like executives who are promoted into the C-suite in Fortune 500 companies and multi-trillion-dollar, like all of them are board members, right? On some company outside their own. Those positions are often unpaid, or they get some like ridiculously minimum stipend. They are not necessarily like safety valves or career paths for them. It is just something that, like, it might be too far of an analogy to call it like being like a ref, right, in a professional sport where that is not their full-time job. That is just something that they do for most of them. But those aren't jobs for them. Those are after-school activities, right, where they have to show up for a board meeting from time to time. That is not their career path. That is not the thing that's setting them up for the next thing. That's something that they go do so they can get some shares, so they can pack away some ducats in their nest egg.
I'm going to go back to hardware here, Logic. And I said this earlier on Twitter, and I said, to me, if you kind of read the tea leaves and you look at her background and kind of like what Microsoft's been telling us for some time now, that you don't need an Xbox and that everything is an Xbox, right? She doesn't have a hardware background. Phil Spencer, worked on, hardware launches with Xbox. Same with Peter Moore. And so like she doesn't have that, right? And so that leads me to believe like just again, given her background, that this probably means kind of a pivot, right? Of using her experience, which is more focused on platform growth, growth of users within the ecosystem and services, and not necessarily physical devices. That this is the route they're heading, Hamp, and I don't disagree with you, Logic. I think at some point, like you're right, like it probably transitions to OEM devices. And again, I still hear things. I hear things that even Magnus is not set in stone. I mean, obviously, who knows? No one knows for sure. But I'm still hearing that. That's still up for debate. Yeah, go ahead.
So I want to stick my toe in the door and just present another thought, right? Not saying you're doing it, but we'll say lots of other people who will run with this, both on the PlayStation and the Xbox side. A lot of times as gamers, we put a huge emphasis on all this stuff being about gaming. This may not have anything to do about gaming, or it may have only partially. It may have to do more so with Microsoft. And it may have more so to do with, hey, I've got a young exec who I'm grooming to eventually get to the C-suite. I have this seat over on Xbox, which I really don't give a shit about. Right? So I'm going to put her there in a rotation to get her some experience, to get her some reps, to get her some snaps with the football. Right? So that, I mean, when you talk to a lot of executives who grow, like a lot of them will tell you about their, like, I did a tour in finance, I did a tour in ops, I did a tour in marketing, I did a tour in in account management. Right? They've done all these different things, and that was part of their grooming, to go or rotate around and see lots of different pieces of the business, so that when they do get to those C-level positions, they've seen a lot. So I don't want to entirely dismiss the notion that the decision has been made. Kind of, we don't really give a shit about Xbox, and I'm kind of being a little over the top with that, but I'm kind of saying, like, Sharma being CEO of Xbox doesn't have anything to do with Xbox being successful or not. Right? It could be that they've already decided, like, Xbox is going to be what it is, and we don't think it's going to be successful, and we're going to continue doing this. So I'm just going to give her the roadmap, and all I need her to do is execute the roadmap. But what I really need from her is to get some snaps with the football, so that I can move her on to the next thing. And when she does that, then she's seen some more of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like Microsoft gobbling up Xbox, it's just being like another app on Windows. When you say it like that, that's what it makes me think.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, as far as where gaming goes, it could be that they're going to maneuver it in the direction of, Uber, Instacart, DoorDash, and make it, Xbox becomes just another app-based marketplace, right? It becomes ubiquitous and headless,
which is her background, by the way.
Yeah.
So why come out and say one of your commitments is to the return of Xbox?
Because that was Phil's last PR swan song. Was he wrote, this is what you need to say to keep the Xbox zealots in line.
I mean, you know what? I mean, all jokes aside, Logic, it wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, we're spitballing here, right? No one knows for sure what happened, but no, like, it wouldn't surprise me if Phil said, "Hey, you know what? Just throw this line in here. These guys will eat it up. Trust me. I can tell these guys anything." and they'll eat it up. They'll believe it. And then I'll reach out to like Windows Central or some of the Xbox guys and feed them little nuggets, and they'll spread the gospel. And these people will be eating out the palm of your hand. Just trust me, it'll work out. And she's probably like, "Really, Phil?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, trust me, it works." But yeah, I don't know. It's. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it anymore. That's where I'm at. I just don't believe anything that comes out of Xbox leadership now. And this goes back to the 4 games thing. I mean, do you kind of feel the same way that I do? Like you kind of just take whatever they say with a grain of salt?
Oh, I mean, I've been like that for a while, since actually the start generation. It's why I didn't purchase an Xbox. When the series consoles came out, is because I've kind of foresaw this happening. I talked about it at the beginning of the generation. I said who the CEO was. I studied him. I saw where he was trying to take the business, and long and behold, look at where they're at.
You did call a lot of this stuff a long time ago, B. I mean, you've been saying this even pre Xbox Series generation, this generation.
Yeah.
I mean, all the years that you've been a panel member, co-host here on BRAP, goes back, 11 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
like that.
Yeah. And you've met Phil Spencer. You've met some of the leadership at Xbox.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you've got that insight, So yeah, I just don't believe them anymore. And I don't believe. I think folks are going to be disappointed when they realize that it's not. Even though she said core Xbox and then console, kind of going back to the roots, that's not necessarily what's going to happen.
So what do you guys think changes as far as the Xbox business? Do you think everything just stays put how it is? Do you think Game Pass changes? Do you think them, are they gonna like change the cadence of in which games go to other platforms? Do they increase the cadence to all platforms? Get more games on Switch. Where do you guys think the business kind of changes for Xbox?
Oh man, I honestly, P, I just think that it stays. I don't think they're going to change course. I think that they're going to maintain the direction that they're taking the business. And I don't know if there's going to be an acceleration of that, but I think she is key in steering the ship in that direction. I think Logic mentioned it becoming more of an app, Xbox becoming more of an app. In the same way that like Instacart, yeah.
This regular Logic didn't say that. Logic re-articulated what you were saying.
Oh, I thought you agreed with that. Okay.
See, this is how this shit happens, Brad. this is why you get the guy. This is why we have the guy saying, "Oh, Logic said this and Logic said that." No,
Logic did not say that. It was actually Brap. All right. So I said that.
I just wonder, because if you come in swinging saying all this things about how Xbox is going to go back to the way it was, like there has to be some changes to the business. There has to be something that changes to where you can say, okay, this is the new direction of the company. This is the reason why we made the choice to go with this person at leadership, and this is kind of where we're taking Xbox going forward.
If it was somebody who had a gaming background, I'd still be I'd still have some hesitation, probably not as much, but I don't see them changing. I don't see them walking back. This is an Xbox or everything's an Xbox. I don't see them walking back. Halo, your tentpole franchise, the iconic franchise.
Let's stop there. So tentpole franchises is do they change the business to where we're only focusing on these tentpole franchises? We're the days of us, releasing these games that is not really attracting the audience. They're not really gaining anything from having all these games in Game Pass. We're going to focus on these because these are the drivers of the business. Do you think that happens?
No.
No.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to walk this stuff back, B. I don't see them. I don't see them changing course here. I think a lot of this stuff is just fan service. And frankly, I think a bit of it's fan service because they know that the Xbox fans won't question it and will eat it up. I think it's deliberate. When you sit there and you say, right? You sit there, you say, second, the return of Xbox, okay? And I said this earlier in the show. Somebody who's been in the Xbox ecosystem like myself for 25 years isn't happy with the direction. I'm not the only one. There's a lot of us out there. A lot of us out there that don't or are not happy with the direction of Xbox, or don't like how diluted the brands become. A lot of us remember Xbox with the OG Xbox. I talk about this all the time with the OG Xbox, built-in hard drive, right? You could rip your own custom soundtracks. I mean, like those were actually tangible game changers for the Xbox console. I mean, they literally developed games utilizing the hard drive to do things that you couldn't do on other platforms, and create different gaming experiences you couldn't get on other platforms. And they did it with the 360 again.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but when you get to the third part, which is the future of play, what she says here is almost like we're gonna focus on the stuff that you care about. And we're going to continue to pour into the stuff that you care about, and it almost like don't just expect these 1 or 2 releases every 4 or 5 years. There's going to be stuff that comes into these franchises and you can expect continued product from these IPs. That's what that says to me.
Then why would you give Matt Booty a?
Well,
if that's the case, what?
Matt Booty is he's just a piece that stayed on. That's all. He's just a piece that stayed on, and yeah, he got promoted, but who knows how long he's going to stay in that position.
Yeah, Logic. What do you think of the promotion of Matt Booty? I know what you think, but I just I want everyone to hear it.
Yeah, I don't understand how the guy continues to fail upwards. She gave him a lot of praise of like again, that's one of the parts where I lost the plot. Like I'm reading her email, looks good. I'm putting my faith right in Matt Booty. I mean, she literally says she promoted him. So suppose based on what she said, not saying it went down, based on what she said, and again, this like these things often happen. So she gets anointed, right? She gets told she gets a period of time where Satya says, I need you to pick your staff. I'm not going to dictate to you who it is, but I'm going to let you pick your staff. So she goes around and talks to the heads, and she comes back and she says, this is who I want in these places. And she picks Matt Booty. I'm like, so, either it's on her because that's who she decided to put on her roster based on some time spent talking to him. Maybe he bamboozled her and flattered her and got her to think that he knows what he's doing. But like the guy has been in charge of shipping games on Xbox for the last 5 years, and he has not done a good job. So I'm like, she's not familiar with the gaming industry, so maybe I would think that somebody would have told you,
Yeah, I think, again, I'm not, by the way, we did a poll here in the Brap chat. We're like 90, where'd the poll go? Poll disappeared. All right, it was like 97% or 93% of the 32 respondents said that, no, I asked a question, is Xbox back? And like 97% of the folks said no. Don't put too much stock in that poll, by the way. Larry Herb. Major Nelson. I love Major Nelson, by the way. I actually even said, we miss you, Larry, and great ambassador to Xbox you were. But Major Nelson actually on her replied to her Twitter post, and he said, that's a great start. And again, she says, 1, great games, 2, return of Xbox, 3, future of play. Yeah, but by the way, guys, what do you guys think of future of play? Like, what do you think that means?
Yeah, well, that's what I was talking about. The future of play, that's her third paragraph.
I mean, the future of play is not playing your games on a console. Yeah.
Yeah, games everywhere. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just like future play. It's like, okay, but console play, like that, yeah. Because ideas contradict themselves. She's talking about great games, return of Xbox. Yeah. Major says, that's a great start. Keep that in mind as you begin to build out your plan. If I may be so bold, let me add one more. 4, partner with the community. And this goes back to Bojack's super chat of how do you feel about Major Nelson's advice to Asha Sharma to partner with the community. And then he asked specifically, is it too late? What do you think about that, B?
Yeah, community's gone, man. You may find a small community that'll rally around you, but I mean, the majority of the community is gone, man, and that's just the facts. It's the community's in shambles, man. You do things like this, and people, nobody knows who she is, so it's not like a face that they can recognize. At least if it was, Matt Booty taking the
Sarah Bond.
Yeah, Sarah Bond. It's somebody who, the community knows, they're somewhat familiar with. They can put a little trust in them. When it's somebody that has nothing to do with gaming, doesn't have a gaming background, and come in to take over a gaming division, like people aren't going to trust that. She's got to show and prove. And if if everything stays status quo like you guys think it will, then I don't know if you get a big community to kind of rally around that. And I don't like I think it's over. To be totally honest, I think it's over. I think it's been over for a while. I've been saying this for a few years now, and I don't think this change in CEO is going to do anything for them.
It's interesting. I think I think back to our time together, doing the show, and I've known you, geez, probably for 13 years. When you were doing the Tick podcast.
Yeah.
And I think about the Xbox community then versus now, it's vastly different.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Like the Xbox community today is a shell of itself that it was 13 years ago.
Oh yeah. And then it only became worse once it seemed like Xbox kind of turned their back on the fans when they weren't having fan fest.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When they weren't trying to get the community together. When you don't have a year-end wrap-up of everything that gamers done on your console. Like when you do things like that, it's like, yo, what you guys don't care about us? You know what I mean? Like it's a drastic change. You know what I mean? When you go from having all this access to none at all.
So help me out and let me know if my read is incorrect, because my sense of it is that the Xbox community that is left is the only ones who are left are the sycophants.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Are the people who are going to co-sign on whatever you do, because those of us who were trying to hold Xbox accountable, those of us who wanted great games and were dissatisfied with mediocre deliveries, given the large amount of resources that they have and the backing by a multi-trillion-dollar company, we all left. We either left or we were excommunicated or cast out. Like that's as I've told my story, that's the story that I see so many other people saying. Yeah, I said there were things that I didn't like about Xbox, and like I just got yelled, screamed, and dogpiled by people who were just co-signing on everything that they did with zero regard for quality deliveries. So I mean, when the super chat asked that question, I was like, no, that's the last thing she should do, because the people who are left are the people who led Xbox astray in the first place and said, yeah, everything you're doing is fine. And as I understand it, that's because Phil led this cult of personality and he asked for feedback, but if you disagree with what he said, he stopped treating you favorably and he showed preferential treatment to right, and you became the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, I mean, I actually know people who were close to Phil Spencer, who are influencers, when they criticized him, were kind of given the cold shoulder for quite some time. And that was and the old Xbox leadership. Go back to let's talk about let's go way back. Let's talk about Ed Freeze, Robbie Bach, Jay Allard,
Peter Moore.
Like they would listen to the fan feedback, but they would own shit. They would when something was amiss, they owned it. And Xbox fans back then would hold their feet to the fire. That doesn't happen today. It's like, I want to make sure you said this logic, but I think you said what's left is the sicko or the sycophants, right?
Yeah. I mean, I love Major Nelson, but I have a hard out with that suggestion. That's the last thing she should do.
That's a great point.
The last thing she should do.
I don't think she should engage the community, because the community isn't what it used to be. And you're right. Like a lot of us who were big Xbox fans, like we were chastised for holding their feet to the fire, right? Because they broke the original value promise of the Xbox Series X. People are like, what does that mean? What I mean is, like, when you buy a platform, when you buy a console, I think you've talked about this, Logic. Gotta be careful. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But you talk about, I think you've talked about in the show that ROI when you buy hardware.
Right.
Right?
I expect to get something back.
Yeah, you expect to get something back. Yeah.
Even if I have to pay in a little more, that's fine if I'm having to pay in a little more for something that I want. You know, the Xbox guys today are all like, oh, well, you guys pay $70 for games and we pay $30. You guys pay $30 for a bunch of shit that I don't want. $30 for a bunch of shit that, quite frankly, I don't think you guys want, as evidenced by the fact, right, that the engagement, that the total time spent gaming is so low in comparison to other platforms.
Yeah.
So you spend $30 to get access to games that you play for 5 minutes at a time, right, at the Golden Corral buffet, taste testing the poo-poo platters. Go dip it into into Baskin Robbins, right? And get your little spoonful of cheesecake ice cream or whatever, you know. But you don't actually buy the fucking cone, you know.
Oh my God, man.
So, you know, I don't.
It's a great analogy.
Yes, I pay money for the stuff that I want to buy, but I buy the stuff, right, that I want to own.
And this is. Yeah, that's a great analogy, by the way. Hamp. But there's my frustration too. It goes back to, we talk about the fan base today, like the old fan base. Like if Xbox didn't live up to that value promise, which again, like you may ask, what get that ROI that we've talked about on the show. That when you go out and you buy an Xbox Series X or a PlayStation 5 or a Nintendo Switch. Yeah. You're not just buying a piece of hardware. You're buying access to games you can't get anywhere else, and people value those things. Yeah, this goes back to the argument of exclusivity. People arguing against exclusivity while they type on their Apple iPhone and wear Air Jordans. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, where else do we do this and have this conversation, right? But that's the value prop. That's the value promise. And so when Xbox broke those things, and we spoke out about those things because we're passionate gamers, because we value the brand, we got chastised for that. You're supposed to hold companies accountable when they break those value promises. You're supposed to do those things when they don't deliver. You know, like when Redfall came out, you should have been angry about that.
And let me just double check on that. You should have been angry at the quote from Matt Booty. People should have been outraged that in his interview he said, yes, Redfall was a problem, but we're seeing good engagement on Game Pass, so how much of a miss is it? That should have caused people to crash out.
110%. Yeah. And the other thing too, like the idea that everything's an Xbox now, which I think about what Laura Fryer said. If everything's an Xbox, then nothing's an Xbox. So now you basically, as a consumer, if I'm a consumer, right, and how I felt about that, like when she said that, and when Microsoft was starting to put their games on PlayStation, the reason why I got rid of the Series X, and why I said I don't need an Xbox anymore. And I've never in the 25 years ever thought that I'd never have an Xbox console. But I just felt like the thing that I invested in just didn't exist any longer. It's like Microsoft's Xbox changed the deal after the fact. I spent $500 on a plastic box. And yeah, that's fine if people are okay with that. They don't, they're okay with that, that change. But many of us weren't. So again, I don't, to your point, B, to your point, Logic, I don't disagree. I think she should stay away from the community. I think if she's serious, and I go back to the PlayStation 3 generation with Sony, put your head down and focus on making great games. Let the games do the talking. And fuck whatever the rest of the community has to say. Don't listen to them. Because the community that's in place now is a big reason why Xbox is the place that it is today. So I think Phil actually listened to them too much. Because if you were on the original Xbox, the Xbox 360, that was peak Xbox. That should be the benchmark. in my opinion.
Make great games. The games will sell. Put them on other platforms. I don't have a problem with you putting them on other platforms. Make great games. Don't say that the games
100%.
are great simply by the virtue of the fact that they are on multiple platforms. That is excusism. That does not win you football championships. That is like, I don't know about you guys. I don't spend a lot of time listening to head coaches in the NFL who are losers stating why they think the NFL is bad, why refereeing is bad. I'm like, bro, you got a losing record, like multiple seasons in a row. I don't even know why you still have a job. That's not who I'm going to listen to. Right? You know, I never liked Michael Schumacher. I've warmed up to Max Verstappen, but I listen to much more about what they have to say about Formula One than like drivers who are always on the back of the grid. Like, it shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah, and it's a great point, Logic. And I think I've seen a lot of a game being great solely because it's in Game Pass or it's because it's accessible on multiple platforms.
Or because there's a bunch of them. Oh, Xbox put out a bunch of games. Who cares? We put out a bunch of games this year. And you guys put out one, Ghost of Yotei. I'm like, yeah, Ghost of Yotei was a great game. Not a mediocre game, not an above average game, a great game.
Yeah.
Xbox put out a bunch of mediocre to barely above average games. And I didn't buy a subscription to eat at Golden Corral.
Man, you really you really got in for Golden Corral.
Eat at Golden Corral.
That place is fucking terrible.
That's the only all you can eat place I know.
No, that place is terrible. B, have you ever eaten at Golden Corral? I've eaten once. It was
I've won
abysmal
once or twice, and I hated it every time.
I had the fucking pizza. I'm like, microwave pizza tastes better than this shit. The only thing that was good was the soft serve ice cream machine, because you can't fuck up soft serve.
Oh no, you know the one that really drives me nuts is CC's Pizza. I don't know.
Yes, I've been to CC's.
I love my brother, but like when his kids were like little tiny kids, it's like we would go home and he'd be like, "Oh, let's go to CC's." I'm like, bruh. No, man. No, I'll spend the money. I'll buy my nephew some food. Like, no.
Yeah, CC's is not that. It's not that good.
It's horrible.
It's not that good. Horrible. It's actually, the pizza is better than Gordon Corral's pizza, but it's not that good though.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah, you're better off if you're gonna go to CC's. I would say you're better off just going to like Domino's, and Domino's is not even that good.
Yeah,
but. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like if focus on making great games, put your head down, make great games, and and if you release great games on multiple platforms, like I think most people would be happy with that. You know, I prefer the old Xbox to come back, where you're focused on making great hardware and great exclusive content to support that hardware. Those days are gone.
Yeah. Now I will say, after all that being said, and I have struggled and soul searched through this afternoon. I get where you are, Brap. I will say, I have chosen to hone close to my Christian values, and I am giving her a blank slate.
You forgiving Phil Spencer?
I'm not holding her accountable for the transgressions of Phil Spencer. And to me, the biggest transgression of Phil Spencer has been the PR and the voice track for the last 5 years. Right? It's just been all the duplicitous talking out of the sides of the mouth.
Yeah, but that's what makes it so weird, though. Logic, that's what makes it so weird, because like you're just about to say, they talking on both sides of their mouth. So
yeah,
where did that come from?
I don't know. I guess maybe I need to add to that. I'm giving her a blank slate, and I'm giving her a pass on this first email.
Logic. I think, frankly, I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment. But
that could be true. That could be true. It's no skin off my nose me giving her a blank slate. Like money matters, right? Like, you know. So I'm not running out and buying the next Xbox game. I'll buy the next Xbox game if it's a good video game. So, but from a PR marketing perspective, voice track perspective, I'll just chalk this up to, it's whatever is whatever. We're putting out a bunch of PR stuff on a single day. It's a big event. I'm going to let her come in and start working on Monday, right? And see what she actually does.
So let's talk about Phil Spencer's legacy, because he's been at Xbox. He's been at Microsoft, not Xbox. He's been at Microsoft for 38 years. Been at Xbox since the beginning. I'll go to you, B. What do you think about his legacy at Xbox?
I mean, are we counting the last 3 or 4 years?
Yeah.
I mean, because I feel like if we're counting the last 3 or 4 years, I think the legacy is a bit tarnished, simply because of what Logic was just talking about with a lot of the doublespeak. Because at the beginning of his tenure, taking over and kind of bouncing back from what Matrick has set up, and kind of fighting back and getting a console in a good standing, and starting to release games. They start to buy studios. They introduce Game Pass. Things were looking really good for Phil. But I think, specifically after, they acquired Activision, and, things didn't really turn out the way that they planned on. I think that's where a lot of the doublespeak came from. I think that's where, a lot of the, I don't know if it's mismanagement or direction from Satya on where Xbox should be, and them, trying to navigate that behind the scenes and trying to present that to the consumers. I think that really tainted his legacy, in my opinion, because it's led Xbox to where it is today. And, we all know this console business, it ebb and flows. Sometimes you have good generations, and other ones, are a little down. But, we went from 360 to Xbox One. That was kind of the down curve, and it started to rise up, as they released a new Xboxes in that same generation. And, they were going after, some partner brand deals and things like that. And things were starting to look up. And then we get to the Series X generation, and it started to tail back down. And unfortunately, we're still in that generation. And, these last few years have been the worst. Their console sales have been the worst that they've ever been, as far as, year over year, purchases. So, he had a strong legacy at the very beginning, but I think towards the end, it definitely started to taper off, and it tainted it a little bit. And, in my eyes, it didn't end the way that it should have.
What about you, Logic? What do you think of his legacy?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna go down well. I think at the end of the day, he cared too much about the wrong things, and cared more about currying favor than actually running an effective business. For all of his, when he laid people off saying, there's no world in which, like, I'm not accountable for running a business. What I'll say is, over the entirety of his tenure, and like, look, and you and I talk, like, in my mind, I've had to get to a point where I kind of parse Phil Spencer up into like 3 different people, at least, maybe 4. There's a Phil Spencer that is what I call a game philosopher. And quite honestly, that is the person that I had huge favor for. And a person who still says things that I kind of believe in. And that I think is altruistic and really wants, like, this utopian future right? That is good for all gamers. But I think then there's Phil Spencer, the business person who was accountable to Satya and eventually became accountable to Amy Hood. And that person often did things that cut against the grain of Phil, the game philosopher. And then I don't even remember what his third persona was. And then I think his third persona was he was a dude bro, who claimed, although we've heard like questions about those claims, of wanted to be a gamer, wanted to play games like with the community. And I think the biggest problem in his legacy is that he never reconciled those three personas and executed on them in a way that made them all feel consistent. And in fact, that's part of what is in Sharma's email, right? Her announcement. One of the things she mentions is that the big thing she wants to bring back to Xbox is consistency. So, B, when you said, it sounds like she's like overturning, it sounds like she's coming in and writing a bunch of executive orders, right? And overturning what the last guy put in place. Maybe part of that was, maybe Phil Spencer was the guy who was flip-flopping like every few months. And maybe Yave Early, that was because of like things he was hearing, right, from Satya, but it's still on him, I guess, that, he was constantly like tearing up the playbook and coming up with a new thing and a new pitch that he thought was going to curry him favor, right, with the C-suite. I don't know, but that's I think that's what his legacy is going to go down. Is it's going to go down as that. It's going to go down as that inconsistency. It's going to go down with the whiplash. It's going to go down with the, well, this is what we thought Xbox was, and now you're telling us Xbox is something different. And then as soon as we get set, like literally the moment we get set into that, then the next month you come behind us and tell us like Xbox is something different again. And again, the people who have stuck with you are quite frankly, I'm just going to say it, are people who don't give a shit what Xbox is. Right? Xbox could be whatever we're told that it is. But the people who you lost are the people who said, no, the thing that I want to believe in, like is this. And when you color outside those lines, then you don't need me to be part of your community.
Logic. And I think when you talk about that specific fan base, the one they lost, right? I think that coincides with the decline in hardware, decline of the business. And people just saying, you know what, we don't want this. And I think part of that's because of the inconsistencies in messaging and strategy. It's funny, you said there's three sides of Phil Spencer. I was like, 50 Shades of Phil. And I think his legacy is going to be complex because of the things you mentioned. I do think there's some things that, like, you talked about, like Josh Ayers called him philosophy Phil. And I think some of those philosophical things that utopian vision that he had for gaming, I think some of that he actually tried to implement. I think, and some of it was, and I got to give him credit with Game Pass. He was a bit of a visionary in that regard. And kind of tearing down the walled garden a little bit. But I also think like there was a lack of execution, I think, consistently. And there was also this kind of like weird, there was always this kind of back and forth. And I think like, and I look back, right, I go back to the Xbox One. I think it started that generation. They started closing studios, and then the double talk started happening, and it started with Quantum Break. And it was like, oh, well, like, this is only like I forget what he said. It was like, oh, this is just a one-time thing or something. Quantum Break released, 2015, 16? So here we are 11 years later, and now everything is not just on PC, but on PlayStation. And the one thing I suppose his intentions were good, in trying to foster a relationship with the community, especially after, what happened with the launch of the Xbox One. But I thought that was kind of weird looking back at it. And I've talked to people that used to game with him that look back at it now and they're like, yeah, it was kind of weird. Like I felt like I wouldn't say who told me this, but one individual said, like, I felt like I was used. Like they were doing this like social engineering type thing with their consumers. kind of trying to do this grassroots thing. And I always thought it was odd that like a CEO or head of a major, gaming platform would take time out of his day to game with fans. Like it's just never really like I thought to myself, like, you don't see Nintendo doing this. You don't see PlayStation doing this. And so the inconsistencies are going to be the things that stand out. I think to your point, I think you asked me, are we talking about the last 3 or 4 years? I look back at the last 3 or 4 years, and I look back at, we're never going to out console PlayStation. It's only 4 games. And then just this constant pivot, the constant gaslighting. I will say this. I do give him credit because I have heard that he did save Xbox after the debacle of the Xbox One. But I also do think he did some harm to the brand, the reputation of the brand, with the lack of execution and the inconsistency in strategies and the double talk. And he lost fans. He lost a lot of diehards. So those are my thoughts on Phil Spencer.
I mean, just to add to that, he lost. I mean, a lot of those fans are part of the 92 million who are on PlayStation 5s now. What I will say, is to me, what I will say is peak Phil Spencer were the years 2016 to 2019. The backwards compatibility program, the initial studio acquisitions, Game Pass on PC. I felt like there was a recognition that they had lost the Xbox One PS4 generation and they weren't going to win it. And there became this emphasis on let's win hearts and minds and do the right things and make consumer-friendly moves that kind of prep people for the next generation. And I think the biggest problem I have in the 2020 to 2025 timeframe is because there was that winning of hearts and minds, because there was an encouragement to hang in there, because there was fomented interest in investing in the platform that was not intermixed with what I feel like was BSPR. It felt like such a knife twist 2020 to 2025. It was like, bruh, why did we hang in there for those 4 years? We thought we were being geared up and geared up, right, for to go hog, right, for this generation. And now you coming in here saying Xbox doesn't need Halo to launch. You don't say anything about what's going on with Forza, and you literally come out on stage and say, yeah, like a year after launch, and say, hey, Turn 10 is getting started on Forza Motorsport. Like, that's still the thing. Like, of all the stuff we've talked about, that is still the thing that came out of his mouth that floored me before things got really, really, really bad. And then we just saw how internally horrific things were, right, when the emails came out and things came out during discovery and the acquisition. And I'm just like,
oh yeah, like when they talked about the they didn't have any games releasing for the holiday, and he was like,
I remember the reaction to that. Yeah, I could just think about the ass chewing that I would have gotten in that scenario had that been me.
And that email was to Matt Booty, who just got promoted.
And Sarah Bond was on it too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she was on it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, no offense, I'm not picking on the person in the chat who said this. I'm saying it because it's been said multiple times over and over. There's like, oh, Sarah Bond did a great job, bringing great games to get. I'm like, she was part of the formula that Starfield got canceled in 30 days before E3, essentially Summer Game Fest, whatever. 30 days before E3, the CEO is sending out an email saying, hey, and Starfield had been canceled, had been delayed for months at that point, right? Phil Spencer is sending out an email saying, "Hey, I'm looking at the pipeline. I'm looking at, like, there's no plan for replacing these games have been moved out." And and I'm sorry, I'm going on. Like, I got mad looking at the email thread because I know how infumed I would have been had I seen the email thread. Like, the CEO says, "Hey, I'm looking at December at the holiday season, and you guys haven't done your job, and there's no plan." And then I start getting this flurry of emails of people with last minute ideas, like, "Oh, well, we can do this, or we can do this, like I know, like, my current boss would have thrown up his hands and said, like, "This is your guys' job. Like, why am I catching it? Like, don't send me a bunch of suggestions about what you think. Go freaking fix the problem, right? And then come back and bring me the damn slate. Don't send me a bunch of crap about, like, we could do this, we could do that, we can do this, we can do." The two of you get together in a room and freaking fix it. I just sorry.
No worries. I do want to welcome Falky's with us.
Hey,
Falky, thank you for joining us. You know what that means? It means that humanity has lived to see another day. Falky's with us.
Yes, Team Green has lived through the news. They've made it out the other side.
All right, Falky, I got to get your thoughts on this.
Which bit?
With the announcement of Phil Spencer retiring, and Asha Sharma taking over as the head of Microsoft Gaming.
Well, I think some flowers need to be handed out to a few people, especially a couple of people sitting in this panel at this point in time who've been saying for a couple of years that Phil needs to retire. He looks tired. He's done. He's cooked. And reading through through what was put out on the official Microsoft blog, quote, "Phil Spencer made the decision to retire from the company last year." That's no wonder he disappeared from saying or doing anything. Made the decision to call it quits, so he's out. And they went and pinched Meta's vice president to come in. It's reading through this statement. Some of the things, it's just I've got to laugh. I really do. It's like they're jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. The first commitment here. It starts with 3 commitments. Again, reading from what Asha Sharma's put out in this blog. First job is simple: understand what makes this work and protect it. If you've had a year to get in and sort it out and do the changeover, how do you not already understand? The first is great games. Second is the return of Xbox. We commit to our core Xbox fans and players who have invested for 25 years. And third is the future of play. They brought in an AI specialist and then made those commitments in the first statement. Setting themselves up for failure seems to be the common theme over there, isn't it? This is nuts. And Sarah Bond is gone, which is fair enough. Look at the decisions she's presided over in the last 3 years alone and where it's sitting at now. The performance isn't there. Heads have got to roll. Grooming, shouldn't say grooming, that's a bad word to use. Preparing Sarah to take over from Phil. Clearly, they don't want to have that taint on that rose-coloured wash all over the leadership going forward. They don't want more of the same or repeat of past failures. So they've gone in a different direction and they're accelerating their AI change. I don't know about you, but I haven't exactly seen Meta setting the world on fire. Come on. Jesus Christ.
Falky, let me ask you a question. What do you think this means for their hardware? I talked about this earlier. I thought, given her background, that this signals an exit out of hardware. I got a lot of slack for saying that on social media because they're like, "Oh, what about Xbox Magnus?" And I have seen companies invest billions, well, millions, maybe not billions, but I'm sure there's probably some use cases out there where companies invested billions of dollars and then suddenly pull the plug and just ate it. But what do you think about this? Like, given her background, You know, she worked at Meta, Instacart. What do you think this?
The comment that's made here: we'll celebrate our roots with a renewed commitment to Xbox, starting with console, which has shaped who we are. It connects us to the players and fans who invest in Xbox and developers who build ambitious. Gaming now lives across devices, not within the limits of a single piece of hardware. So we expand across PC, mobile, and cloud. Xbox should feel seamless, instant, and worthy of the communities we serve. Break down barriers so developers can build once and reach players everywhere without compromise. What does that tell you? They brought in an AI specialist and they're talking about build once for multiple devices and deliver across multiple devices. Not once do they reference that a specific console is in that future. What does that tell you? And that's the words, but direct quote written from the words of the person who's now in charge as of Monday, I should point out.
Yeah, and I took the console thing too. I didn't mention this earlier, but I took the console thing as as a reference to this console, this generation. But moving forward, to your point, when you start connecting those dots, and she's saying, you know, this seamless experience or this seamless development platform for developers who could reach games across multiple devices with, you know, without having to probably pull multiple levers. Like that doesn't. That's not. That is that. You know what? That. And I said this earlier. That to me sounds like just a general, like just an application that exists on what you see today on your mobile phone device. You know, where those apps and everything inside those apps works across multiple devices.
Yeah, there's some stuff in here that is like rally the troops. You know, pin the colors to the mast. Rattle the scabbards, bang the drums. Let's get it going again. And then makes comments in here again, like as monetization and AI evolve and influence the future, we will not chase short-term efficiency or flood our ecosystem with soulless AI slop. They've been doing that for the last 12 months. And now games will always be a part of art. Will be art crafted by humans and created with the most innovative technology provided by us. Their innovative technology stack is predominantly AI focused for now and in the investment in the next 5 to 10 years. So, I mean, you want to have your double talk going on day one? Like, come on, guys. There's. So I keep chuckling because I keep rereading this thing. I want to return to the renegade spirit that built Xbox in the first place. I'll require us to relentlessly question everything, revisit process, protect what works, and be brave enough to change what doesn't. Okay, what's worked? Consoles, exclusives, building an ecosystem around that. Cool. What hasn't worked? Divesting into multiple places and not actually selling it, but giving it away. And devaluing through cannibalization of sales and trying to microtransaction your way into profit whilst at the same time making sure people don't spend any money on your ecosystem. I really don't know. I just flabbergasted at times on this. It's like,
fuck yeah. I'm chuckling because you being a financial analyst and knowing what the financials look like Q2, and then reading that statement, I'm sure that's driving you nuts.
I am like, I saw the first post pop out just before it hit the social medias, and it was Phil Spencer's out. I'm like, and then it was Sarah Bond's out too, and I went, excellent. So there's the two that have been driving the ship into the ground. Gone. Great. Let's see some good people who know what it should be get put in here. And they went and promoted Matt Booty, who hasn't got a creative bone in his body and couldn't balance a project if he tried. Promoted him to the head of creativity and operations, where he's failed at that before. And then brought in someone who has done nothing but work on AI from a company that has failed to achieve with AI, might I point out, to step into a gaming company without having that background. And all of her, from what I can see in the research I've done, in the short career that she's had, most of it has been around development of AI. I don't want to call them substacks, but AI tech stacks. Logic, can you help me out with the terminology here? I can't. Like a multi-leveled building, you just keep these massive AI sets where they iterative learning on top of some specific process. I can't even explain it properly. That's how painfully difficult it is to understand. And doesn't have a great. This individual, Asher, does not have a great record of producing projects on time and on budget. Is stepping into an area that has effectively got no funding beyond what they can generate, is in the hole, upside down in their financials, is morally and creatively bankrupt to a large degree across multiple different points, and is expected to just turn it around on a dime. And the first communication that comes out is a rallying the troops cry. Come on. Come on. You could have done so much better. Could have done so much better. Anyway.
Yeah. Falky, let me ask you another question. We talked about this earlier. Like, what are the, we just had this conversation before you joined the show. But Major Nelson actually said to her, hey, like, he said, because she laid out 3 points: great games, return of Xbox, 3 future play. And Major Nelson said, hey, that's a great start. Keep that in mind as you begin to build out your plan. If I may be so bold, let me add one more thing: 4, partner with the community. What do you think about partnering with the community?
The community that is 1,000,000% loyal to Phil and will blame multiple people for Phil not being there because Phil was the savior. Phil could do no wrong. It's a poison chalice. Absolutely. Whoever was stepping into this role behind Phil, if it wasn't Sarah, was a poison chalice. No matter what she does, she could she could surprise us all, turn the thing around on a dime, and suddenly it's flying high, and within 12 months, it is absolutely knocking the doors down and making major steps forward. Very unlikely, but even if that was the case, would still be compared to Phil and would always be a shadow and measured against Phil and never good enough, because the loyalists in the community, all they want is Phil, because Phil talks to them. Phil's a gamer. Phil understands their feelings and how their emotions. You're not going to get that out of this person. You sure as shit not going to get access to him like Phil would give you access. Just unreal. But and Nelson was, Major Nelson was making some relatively decent points with that too. But if you're going to embrace the community, you got to have a unfractured community. You got to have one that's you got to get them all back together. You got to embrace. Well, you got to use what's there to begin with, but you got to embrace what makes that community that community. And if you don't understand what makes them tick, well, you're screwed to begin with. I was just reading a comment here before. Someone posted up that previously had led a team maximum of 400 people and is now responsible for 20,000 or something like that. Yeah, fair enough. When you're at that level, your job isn't hands-on development, but and yes, you are mucking around making high-level decisions based on the information people are giving you, and you're 3 or 4 steps removed from having a direct influence on what happens at development level and studio level. But if the directive is we're going to lean heavy into AI as a tool, trim more jobs out to be able to pay for it, if that's the directive, everyone's got to follow along. And I don't see how that's going to benefit the community one bit. If they go to the burn and churn method and just pump out a whole heap of AI-backed games to flesh out Game Pass, this could be quite horrible. So I don't know if it's setting it up to to make success. I'm actually wondering if this is the set it up to turn it off. Might be why Sarah left. We'll find out more about that in the coming days and weeks, I'm sure of it. But if you had the chance to and having worked so hard to be the top person on it, and you'd been handpicked as the successor, and then all of a sudden they go out, because this isn't like they decided on Monday they were going to replace Phil, and on Friday they found the new replacement. There's like 3 or 6 months lead time into this thing after having done an extensive search. So Sarah knew she was going and is basically out the door with Phil. Why would you go if you were first in line for that job? And the only thing I can think of is she applied, they made her apply for it. It wasn't an internal promotion without a competitive process. They made her apply for it and decided not to go with it. Now, that would be the first incident I'd say she's cracked the shits and left. And fair enough. But then look at some of the decisions that she's presided over in the last few years, and I genuinely fear that this might be the change out that's going to lead to the shutdown, and that is not what we want at all. Because regardless of which team you bleed for, just having games available to play and the people that work hard to develop them, to just have all that lost is horrible to even consider.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to proud.
No worries. No, and I want to get your perspective. Let me grab the super chat here. Donnell Brown with a $2 super chat says, I'm watching the podcast on my new Pixel 10 Fold. Thank you for that super chat, Donnell Brown. The Raiders still suck.
Hey, can I ask a question that's completely unrelated to gaming, but I want to get B Money's perspective on something.
Sure, go ahead.
My son talked me into buying him a pair of Air Jordan slip-ons. Can they be considered Air Jordans or not? Because he reckons they can be.
Yeah, I mean, of course, as long as they got that logo, you know.
They do.
Yeah,
that logo costs me a fortune.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they did.
Big bright green ones. They glow in the dark. Actually, they're pretty cool. He loves
that. That is cool. Hey,
yeah,
I didn't even know Air Jordan had slip-ons.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's the craze over here at the moment. Is you have your shoes you wear at training or at the game. Because a nephew and a couple of other people that play basketball, and you buy these slip-ons. They're the thing to have to wear to and from training, because you don't wear your sneakers to and from. You don't wear your game sneakers and your training sneakers, and you got to have two different sets. So I'm learning to and from the games, and then it's like got to spend nearly $1,000 just on shoes alone. It's insane.
Anyway, you know what, Falky? It's funny you bring up Air Jordans. My 11-year-old turns 12 in like 2 weeks. He's playing travel baseball, and he needs new cleats because he just keeps growing. And so you go to the store, and he's like, I want Air Jordans. I'm like, oh, we're not getting Air Jordans. And it's funny. I wasn't really aware that Air Jordan made baseball cleats until he brought this to my attention. Did you know that, B?
Yeah, Jordan has a whole team of athletes, and he has Jordan athletes that are baseball players. Well,
he got the black Air Jordan ones that come in baseball cleats, right? Because he wants to match his jerseys. Jersey's got a black. The away jerseys are black with white pants, and then the home jerseys are white with white pants. With black lettering stripes. So he wanted the black shoes to match all that, right?
Yeah.
Then he ended up he somehow talked me into getting him 2 pairs of Air Jordan batting gloves. He got like a pink with black or something on it to match. They kind of like match his bat a little bit. They have some black trim to it too to kind of match his. He's like matching his stuff, right? Then he got a pair of black with the gold. He wanted the black batting gloves with the gold Air Jordan logo on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea Air Jordan made baseball gloves, batting gloves. Yeah. I'm like, this guy. I'm like, he's everywhere now.
Absolutely, man.
And where can you get Air Jordan B Money?
I mean, you can get it just about everywhere now.
No, but can you get Air Jordan on Adidas?
No, not at all.
No. Shouldn't Air Jordan be on Adidas? Reebok?
No, not at all. Not at all,
Cheap
sir.
bastard. Just pay for the shoes. Sorry, I bring that up because it was leading into something else that I was curious about. Because it popped up in something else. Just the was it NBA 2K26? There was someone brought up that with the whole Xbox is back with the leadership change that they're going to get all these games going exclusive again. And I was, okay, so exclusives matter now. And some smart ass jumped in and said, NBA 2K26 is they're gonna have all these special like shoes and other bits and pieces you can buy. And I was like, I wonder how that works. And I did some research into it. The purchasing of shoes in NBA 2K26 contributes to, or in any of the NBA 2K games since they brought it in, contributes to about 9% of the microtransaction revenue generated.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Do
insane.
you buy B-Money? Are you buying shoes on 2K?
I do buy shoes on 2K.
Oh my goodness.
I do buy shoes on 2K, along with outfits and accessories. That's the business model, man, and it works, and it continues to work for Take-Two and 2K, and I would assume that we see that even more when GTA launches.
Oh, it'll be nuts when GTA launches.
That's going to be crazy. Hey, real quick, Falky, before we wrap up the show, it's because it's getting close to midnight here. I do want to get to I do want to ask you a question about hardware, because I said this earlier in the show. To me, this move, because she's not someone who doesn't have a gaming background, hasn't had experience launching hardware. Phil had that experience. Others in the industry have had that experience.
It didn't count for much, though, did it?
Yeah. Do you right? Do you think that this is kind of the signal that, hey, like we're getting out of hardware?
Well, it's been of my opinion since 2022 when the series started to draw, the Series S, Series X tailed off because they just didn't market it well and lack of interest and all the rest, and lack of games to support it. It sort of jumped into my mind then, what do they produce, or what can they put their logo on and make money out of it if they're not going to be able to sell consoles, and their ecosystem is going to be more based around Windows products being either a PC, mobile, gaming, whatever, streaming, whatever. And at that point, I sort of sat back into the little personal project, spent a couple of hours just working through some permutations of it. And I went, you know what? Licensing arrangements would absolutely make a crap load of sense for them, because they can sell the brand without having to actually build anything. And they offload all the risk and all the cost and all the rest of it onto someone else. It's the old adage of, instead of me paying to have your item, how do I get you to pay me for me to have your item? So, and the ROG Ally X is the first real attempt at doing that. Now, they might keep making controllers, because that's a pretty decent product that they make. They haven't changed the design in a while, and there's some minor improvements to go there, but they make so many different versions of it, and they make money selling controllers. Because they sell, you still got to put batteries in them. So it doesn't cost as much to make an Xbox controller as what it does to make a PlayStation controller, because you don't have to worry about putting the batteries in them. And that's a significant cost of the controller, right? So they could probably still keep making those as a peripheral item and a couple of other little bits and pieces to go with it, special editions and commemorative points and launch points, all the rest of it. But in terms of an actual console, it doesn't really make sense for them to make a console that would then have to tie in a traditional sense, and then make a PC version and make a mobile version, all the rest of it. If they're saying they're going to make once play everywhere, then it's going to have to be on a platform that can be replicated everywhere, which ties into this notion that, as everyone's been saying, the next Xbox hardware is going to be a PC hybrid. Well, it's either a PC or it's not. And if if you're saying, well, you can produce it and play anywhere, it's great. We're going to make a little thing look like a Steam box, plug it into your TV, and off you go. But it's PC spec settings, all the rest of it. Fine, call it a PC. No one's going to care, except maybe 20 million Xbox loyalists. But they'll get over it pretty quickly if you give them good games. But it would make more sense for Microsoft to go, we're not actually going to build it. We're going to send it out and say, whoever's building something, you want to put the Xbox logo on it, and you can license and have it as a licensed product from us. And then you get some kind of sweetener in the back end of, when we make games and sell games, you can say, Asus or study, who else makes PC gaming PCs? Someone like Asus or not Dell. Who's the other
Alienware?
Alienware and those sort of ones. ROG or Lenovo or whoever it is, make these, put the you got an Xbox branded logoed one, so it's a licensed product. So then you get, it comes pre-installed Game Pass on it, or it comes with a pre-installed launcher or something like that, where you just go and buy one, or instead of going and buying it from the shop, you're just buying it online from whoever's selling it. Yeah. So then that takes all the cost out from Microsoft and Microsoft Gaming and Xbox for having to produce the things. So they just offloaded all this running costs and turned this massive black hole that they've got into a profitable or a cash generating venture, because they're going to get a passive license fee off it. And if their focus then is to just make games and deploy them everywhere, and the only console game that the version of it they're having to focus on is the one that runs on a PlayStation, then this notion of build once, play everywhere becomes a question of, are they going to shift over to having some kind of scalable version that works for whatever PS 5.2 or PS6 or whatever it is you want it, with the new AI stuff that's coming into it, the PSSR and all the rest of that stuff? Is that going to be what they're baselining off, or are they just going to say, well, it runs on Windows 11, so that's the end of it, and we're not going to be releasing games on PlayStation anymore? Because they'd have to have a very, very good argument to suggest to stop selling on PlayStation suddenly. They'd have to go back to the Xbox of old, like the genuine Xbox of old, where they're just locking down exclusives after exclusive after exclusive, and in that case, they'd have to produce some kind of hardware that only play, or some kind of ecosystem that only plays those games, because otherwise you're not doing anything different than what PlayStation is doing, other than they're available on PC and mobile and everywhere else, so people will access it. You don't sell games on mobile. You sell advertising and microtransactions in the mobile game. That's where the money comes from. Streaming games is not available everywhere. It's available in selected countries, and that's not talking about having a big revenue base either, for the cost inputs that have to go with it. So PC gaming and console gaming is still going to drive a lot of their sales. They're going to have to be very careful on how they structure that. But I don't think that they are going to be building hardware in-house. I think they're outsourcing it and doing the licensing deal. And they want to be bloody careful too with how they structure them up, because the last thing they want to be doing is paying someone to be able to put an Xbox logo on it. They need whoever's building them to pay Microsoft to have the license to put the Xbox logo on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think this? Do you think, Falky, this licensing is going to happen with the Magnus, or is it going to be after Magnus?
I don't think Microsoft are building the Magnus. I think there's a deal with AMD and a third party involved. Just the way that the procurement stuff is happening and the way that AMD and Microsoft are talking. It's, they say, we've got this partnership involving AMD and it's to do this, 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 and this. But when Sony stands up or AMD stand up and talk about their relationship, is we're working very closely with AMD on exactly what we want, and there's a two-way benefit out of this. And Xbox talks about, we're asking them to do this for us, or it'll have this benefit of doing this or this. It sounds like that they're not fully involved in it, and it's certainly You know, you look at the manufacturing points and a lot of that area. Microsoft is so exposed if they tried to build this thing in-house to the fluctuating prices and the massive increase in the cost of building anything, because they don't own any manufacturing areas in any areas, whereas PlayStation and Sony does key manufacturing facilities. They would, you know, even if they made it and sold it for $1,500 just to break even, they would struggle to sell it, because you can buy PCs for less than that would perform there or thereabouts. And if it's scalable because they built it once and it's scalable across all these different output devices, well, where's your demarcation of this is the best place to do it? Because remember, the Series X was going to be the best place to play games, and no one gave a shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think. I think there's some poor decisions to be made, but I think there's some smart ones that are just glaring them in the face. And if they just set ego aside, which hopefully the new person will do, they just park ego, accept that where they are is nowhere even close to their competition, even though they claim to not be in competition, they are. Then they might take some of those easy decisions and go, right, well, we can make a, you know, profitable position on these sections, and then when you have enough sections that are profitable and the ones that aren't profitable are close, not making massive losses, well, then suddenly the whole division becomes a profitable venture, the sum of all parts. But yeah, I think hardware's, unfortunately, and unless they want to make a massive shift back to a model that works for PlayStation, it works for Nintendo, but I don't think it would work for Xbox now, because they would burn what they've got left of their loyalists to go back to it, and they're not going to support them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're stuck on this pathway, and I think that's a sensible way to do it. I genuinely think that's a smart way of doing it.
Yeah.
Get someone else to build it and take the risk.
Take the risk, yeah. Yep. All right, Falky. Well, I want to thank you for joining us. I really appreciate
That's
it.
all right. I should extend a thank you to you and Logic and B Money for allowing me to jump in for 20 minutes right at the end. I was listening to the show earlier, and I thought it was a great show, guys. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, we got to get you back on, Falky. I have some more questions for you, revolving around some more recent industry analysis of the gaming industry. So we got to figure out time to get you back on, because I do want to get your thoughts on that. But
yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Falky. Always a pleasure. And Logic, I don't know if you want to be found, if you want to plug gaming outside the algorithm, but if you do, let me know where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm cool. I'm reevaluating what I want to do about that, because I don't know. I think I'm discovering that the games media doesn't actually report any news if it's outside earnings week and an NPD sales chart. And I don't want to talk about all the rumors, the gossip, and the bullshit. So I'm figuring that out.
It's all just recycle, man. Nobody's actually breaking anything anymore.
No.
True.
No, not like it was like 11 years ago. B Money.
Yeah.
It's definitely changed.
Well, that all came down to social media became super big, and TikTok and Twitter and things like that. So it's like, people aren't going to websites to actually view anything, and that whole business changed. So you don't have actual like journalists who are out in the field trying to get stories or make real contacts. It's all just a sad thing, man. The gaming industry as we know it, we've all been veterans of gaming, and we've been doing it for a long time. But the way we grew up in it, and the way like our kids are going to grow up in it is going to be totally different.
I mean, like, you literally have news stories of Major Nelson has advice for Microsoft gaming CEO. Like, what? Off a fucking tweet? That's what we're reporting on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on Thrifty's show the other night, Will really made a profound statement that really kind of. He was like, he said, we have the largest entertainment industry in the world, and yet we have the worst journalists and the worst media, and that doesn't make any sense at all. We deserve better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
It's not largest in like it's marginally larger. Gaming is larger than movies, TV, and music combined, and still there's daylight between the two. Like, it's huge. Gaming it makes Hollywood look like a speck, and yet we get bugger all.
Yeah, absolutely, 110%. So, well, I do want to thank the panel again, Falky, B Money, Game Logic. Always a pleasure, gentlemen. I really appreciate the time, and everyone in the live chat, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And please do me a favor, hit the like button, do the YouTube thing, hit the like button. If you're new, consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. And we'll be back next week at our regularly scheduled time, assuming no scheduling conflict come up on my end. But thank you, everyone, and have a great weekend, and have fun playing some video games this weekend, because that's what it's all about, having fun. Till then, we'll catch you next time. Thank you for watching.